We watch anime.
We watch anime. Tonight we're using our bedroom voices because we're sharing a strange mansion with about 6 other people who sublease to live in it. And, we don't want to wake anybody up because we're recording so late at night. But this week has been incredibly surreal. People who follow my life, you might know that I live a fairly surreal life, but I have like a quotient of how much surrealness I can handle before like my brain stops. I've hit it a number of times. Do you have this? Does this happen to you, Bird? My co-host. I'm B. This is Bird.
Hi, I'm Bird.
This is the Birds and the Bees section of the show, as requested by a YouTube commenter who said like you're failing if you don't have this segment. So the Birds and the Bees, let's tell you about what's going on. Yeah, that's us. Last week, you may remember, we had literally crossed the entire country like that day. Not the entire country, half of it, but America's huge, so it was Oklahoma City to Twin Falls. I'm yawning
thinking about it. It was 20 hours, 21 hours.
It was an incredible feat of driving. Both of us were pretty fucking dead afterwards, but we still had to watch the remainder of the anime, pull all the clips, get Kexi on, and do a 4-hour podcast until 5:30 in the morning. And then we woke up at 10:30, packed all our stuff out of that hotel.
And drove 8 hours.
Yeah, you drove 8 hours to Oregon, where we are actually staying, because we have work here. And initially we were in Bend.
Bend is a place.
So the thing about crossing America is that a lot of it is just big open empty space that you might be driving through for like 4 straight hours before it changes biome or you hit a city. Or you
see a gas station.
Yeah, there's really much more than a gas station. And then there's times where you're just seeing the most unique, most interesting thing you've ever seen all of a sudden. Like, you're just going through the same, and then what the fuck is that cliff? What the fuck is that mountain? What the fuck is that city? What the fuck was that bar I just passed? Like, and, like, for me, I have a hard time letting go of information that enters my brain, as it may be evidenced by the way I talk about anime on the internet. By the way, we did confirm that we have our audio is good and everything.
It sounds good.
Okay, just have to make sure.
I
forgot to actually hit post on my tweet and on my post. So let me go ahead and do that. But yeah, the experience of just going through a ridiculous amount of America in a very short time. Like, my brain was overloaded because, like, initially, like, I stayed up really late just, like, watching, through the front window, singing along to music while you were driving.
Broom, broom.
And just, like, taking in all this scenery. And then at some point, I slept for, like, a few hours. You got too tired to drive. I took over. But I wasn't, like, in an amazing state to drive. And we were going through Wyoming, which is, like, very beautiful, but again, almost entirely empty and full of like the same mountains. So I saw like these mountains for hours and hours, and I was stopping at like every couple of rest areas, and then I would see some crazy shit like
prairie dogs.
There was one where there were just prairie dogs hanging out with us. You can see a bunch of pictures on Bird's Twitter, linked in the description of any of the episodes of the show. And yeah, the prairie dogs are just kind of hanging out. We got all kinds of videos with them. And then while you were passed out, there was one that we went to where there was just a bison reserve, just a bunch of bison hanging out right next to the rest stop, which was also like in a state park or something. And then the next one after that was like entering Utah. And I think we had been here before, but there was like a very evident outpost on top of like a big hill.
Oh yeah, I remember this one. Yeah, that's a bitch of a hike.
I went up that. It was steeper than I was expecting, but like I filmed vlogs in all these places. Haven't had time to edit any of that. Haven't had time to edit anything like the previous episode of the podcast that was recorded right after I did all this driving I'm talking about. And then yeah, again, you had to drive to Oregon, which again is a lot of sameness, it's gorgeous, a lot of really beautiful mountain passes.
East
and
Oregon
stuff,
is so empty.
It's very, very empty, and there's not even like when you're driving through the Midwest. There's lots of places that have their own really good fast food or like something unique that you can experience quickly just going through. And but like Oregon is like all just the most generic fast food. It's the farthest apart it could possibly be. Yeah. You're like if you miss a town that has food, there's no food for 2 hours. You're just done. Like we
better hope you have
experienced
chips.
that. But the first couple places we ate in Oregon were really fucking good. So there was that. We had some incredible burgers, and
oh right.
But the people in Oregon don't know how to dress at all. It is the whitest place I've ever been.
It is pretty wide.
I overheard some of the silliest conversations here. It's just the most like. Whatever your mental image of the concept of gentrification is, that is Oregon. Like, that is the whole place. And it's a weird feeling for me because it also kind of feels like a mishmash of everywhere else in the U.S. where, like,
sometimes you feel like you're in Virginia, and sometimes you feel like you're in California. And
I often feel like I'm in Boston because the roads are, like... It's very mountainous, so all the roads are super hilly and narrow and like one lane, just whipping around a mountain at like 40 miles an hour, which feels way faster when you're constantly turning, which is kind of how it is in Massachusetts too. But Massachusetts is more flat. This is literally, we are on a mountain. Like the place that we're staying is again a weird New Rich monument to insanity. Just this unfucking fathomably massive neighborhood of huge identical
they're not totally
mansions.
Identical.
No, they're not totally identical. They're all built in the same like design philosophy, and I really don't like them.
They're very large.
And they're all falling apart, which is very California. It feels a lot like California in terms of how the housing is built, what types of people are here. A lot of them are people from Southern California. But like the trees are so much taller and so much bigger. And like when you're looking out over a mountain view, like these trees are like as big as buildings, or like they're bigger than houses. Like it's like you can see individually how many trees are in like a valley because they're so huge, you know. It's a weird feeling. It's very different from California in that way, where it just feels like an endless amount of shrubbery forever.
I would love to camp out here, but
not to live out here.
Yeah.
Cost of living's way too high. Anywhere other than Winco, which is a great. If you live anywhere that has a Winco,
go to Winco.
I recommend it because it's like cheap like Aldi, but has selection like Costco and like lots of bulk items, and all their branded stuff is really good.
Dried papaya is really good from there.
The one I went to today also, you could just get slices of pizza made like right then and there.
The one we went to, I had actually never seen that before, but both of the ones we've gone to had that. It was just closed at the first one.
So anyway, that's enough about. Basically, what I'm trying to say is coming to Oregon has been such a weird experience that on top of us having our day job every day, like. Anytime we want to go get food, we have to go
like
down
20
a
minutes
mountain.
away.
And like it took me a few days to just understand where I am. Like when you're in the Midwest, like you kind of look out and you're looking over a field and you're like, okay, I know where I am relative to everything else. And here it's like you look out and you just see trees and you're like, well, I don't know where the fuck I am, dude. That road took 17 hairpoint turns on my way to where I was going. I had to go up and down the same road like 5 times before I understood, like, oh, I'm just going up a mountain.
Yeah.
Just going up the side of a mountain. It's just preposterously high up when you get to where we're actually at. Anyways, We Watch Anime now has a whole culture and a community surrounding it.
We're like a yogurt. We've got cultures.
Yogurt. Yes, or a kombucha. You've been drinking lots of kombucha since showing up in Oregon.
I have. It feels great. It's a nice drink.
It makes you poop good, apparently.
I wasn't going to bring that part up.
You got to say it, because otherwise why are they going to know they got to drink it?
It makes you poop good.
If you're having trouble with the poops, you get the booch. Anyways, so, there's a Discord now. The link is only on the About page because I want you to have to put at least the most small, tiny amount of effort into getting into it.
It's just a small bar for entry, not a big one.
It is 18 plus only. If you're under 18, we'll find out and we will ban you.
And also, if you're under 18, stop watching the
If
show.
you say anything transphobic or racist or homophobic or discriminatory, you'll get banned instantly.
If you find something that I personally find annoying, you will be banned instantly.
If you make Bird upset. Ellen Horizon in chat is a mod, so don't piss her off either, or you're done. It's probably the most trans anime discussion chat that I've ever seen, so I've been really enjoying it. Just a bunch of trans girls giggling about anime, and then occasionally some other people are there too. Shout out to Jacob Wagner, who reminded me of the fact that, of course, Andrew Cunningham, my favorite translator who did the Boogie Pop Light novels, would have a Twitter. Never even thought about it, but he's very active on Twitter, like talking about current season anime. So I might bring up some of his takes later when we talk about Jujutsu Kaisen. But anyways, yeah, the Discord is fun. It's a good place to hang out on downtime, which I rarely have. So I've kind of, like, every time I go in there, I just catch up on everything real quick, and I'm like, good. It's a fun place. We have to shout out our patrons. If you don't know, we do bonus episodes every single month. This month we're going to be talking about Keep Your Hands Off the Azoken.
Are you the Azoken?
Your hands are already on me.
Well, I failed.
The show is really good. I've seen the first 3 episodes way back when it was first airing. We have most recently a bonus episode about Cyberpunk Edgerunners. We go in for like 3 hours. We have Quinn with us, who has no experience with the series, and you, who has a ton of experience with the video game, and me, who has a ton of experience with Studio Trigger and their background. And so we all had very different, like, takes and approaches to info dumping on this fucking series for 3 hours. We also have a Bocchi the Rock discussion where you and I, for some reason, got like way too drunk and talked for 5 hours about Haruhi Suzumiya.
Speaking of which, so can you explain what happens in that?
No. I'm never explaining Haruhi again unless it gets voted for a bonus episode.
Oh no.
So I'm going to talk about this. I guess I'll do it now before we get to naming all of our... No, let's just go ahead and name our $10 patrons first, because if you give us $10 on Patreon or back.buy, which takes less of our money, because we can't be kicked off of it.
Woo.
And the people who give us $10 get their names read in every single episode. They include Dylan, Devon Hall, Last Esses, M2, Hidden Music Island, Anathemi Badesu, Susu2, Zero Tsun Game, and True Fox 1. Bird's doing a big stretch.
Sorry, my back's killing me.
Yeah, my shoulders are dead. My neck is in pain. It's been a rough week. Lots and lots of driving. Lots and lots of putting things on things. This is the vaguest description I could possibly give of what we do. So anyway, yeah, those are the people who give us $10 a month. You are going to eventually make it possible for us to not have to do this goddamn day job any longer. Because, if we make enough doing this, we're going to kick it up a notch in a lot of ways. As soon as we don't have to do, like, a
normie job.
Not just the normie job, but the amount of it. Like, it's more than 40 hours a week that we work on this job. So, like, if we were even doing part-time work or whatever, like, we'd have time to do a We Read Manga podcast, which is something that I really want to launch. And
I thought reading was for nerds.
My concept for the We Read Manga podcast is that we're going to do 1 volume per episode of whatever we cover. We start off just right away Berserk, Vagabond, and Vinland Saga. Those are like the big three meme mangas that are all ongoing still technically, but they're quite long and they come out very slowly. So we'll just catch up on all of those. None of them would take more than a year if we did it weekly. But at the same time, we'd have 6 other slots, one of each for a manga that you or I want to read and is super popular, one that we want to read that maybe isn't super popular, but we're just like, I really need to read this fucking manga, and then one that we've already read and think is good and want to show more people about. So yeah, that'll be it'll be 9 manga at a time. And then also, if we completely don't have any kind of normie job at all, yeah, we could definitely do 2 episodes if we watch anime per week. Because a lot of people have been like, it's going to take like 2 years to get through Maison Ikkoku. And I'm like,
will it?
I'm ready for that, but it might only take a year if we sped it up. I'm still anticipating, like, the point of this is really the ritual of watching these shows every single week. There's a lot of people who are watching ahead on certain shows that they're interested in.
I can't believe you'd spoil yourselves for something.
I mean, I think it's totally fine to do that. Obviously, I've seen some of these shows before. I think they're all shows that are deep enough and dense enough that they're worth watching more than once to get all the details in, except for maybe some of the ones that are currently airing that we're watching just because they're popular. But the classics, they're all classics for a reason. They stand the test of time. There's a lot of detail going on, a lot of things to talk about, even if you've seen it before. Especially with stuff like Steins Gate or Utena. Those ones are like, man, there's so much like call forward in this that like you have to kind of see it twice to really get all of it. But yeah, for us, we are covering so many anime and have so little time that we just couldn't watch forward. It's not that I don't think like Bird would do that. You absolutely would, especially, and I could even see it happening eventually if, like, say, you finish your constant marathon of Suits that you've been doing for like 2 weeks.
Suits is an anime, and I'm like 4 seasons in.
On Netflix.
Yeah.
And
Suits is not an anime, just to be clear. It's a show about being a lawyer and pretending to be a lawyer.
So the way we've been on this work trip for almost probably 2 months now, and at the very start of it, we quickly realized there was a conflict of I have to do all the editing and stuff on the laptop, and while I'm doing that, what is Bird going to do? Because all he was doing was playing Overwatch at the time. And then...
No, I haven't played Overwatch for like a month.
Well, because immediately after that, you went and got Tears of the Kingdom, and then just started playing that for like a solid month straight.
Yeah.
But you never got to the end of it, because... don't have any fucking time. But eventually you got a Netflix subscription and just have been binging Suits in like every minute of downtime that you have for the last while. So
it's a very entertaining show.
So I do think there's a way that Bird would have ended up like marathoning, I don't know, one of the shows that are like, because I know you hate mysteries, so it would be Monster or Steins Gate that you'd be like, I have to marathon this before I'm even gonna give a fuck about it. I don't feel that way about these shows. I feel like each step of the way has been sort of gratifying, but I also think episode 2s have a tendency to be some of the weaker episodes with shows, just because they really have to kind of go back over a lot of stuff from the first one, like really make sure you get what's going on, kind of wait for more viewers to catch up on the show so that they've really reinforced the core ideas behind it. Sometimes there's literally a lot of reused animation from the first episode, because the first episode was really hard to make because they put a lot into it. We're gonna see a first episode that we're starting with that's like way advanced, way too they really
100?
tried
Is that
hard.
What you're talking
yeah
about? Yeah. It's a really fun show.
But before we get into that, where I'm trying to go with this whole talking about bonus episodes and talking about the future of the podcast is that regardless of if we speed up, the shows we're covering are very long. I'm not really trying to cover a ton of current season shows because in the long run, either they're going to turn out to be very popular and good, or they're going to like never really take off, or maybe they're just going to go completely to shit in the middle. You know, Zom 100, for example, is a show that's already proven itself. It's already pretty popular. It was already like the top rated show for anticipation long before it came out. It's got a really great first episode. We watched it. We loved it. We're like, all right, it's worth covering. There are other shows this season that I'm sure are good right now
Like
at the start.
I died and got reincarnated as a vending machine.
Probably, yeah, probably great. But like until those shows actually either get really popular or have critical acclaim or whatever happens after they're over, I can just put them in the 2020s slot if it's really worth covering. But like I want to talk about classics. I want to talk about shows that are always going to hold up.
Like
so
Dead Man Wonderland.
Maybe. You were talking about doing that on the manga podcast as your
No, I just like
personal
insisting
pick.
that it's a good anime.
By the way, we just got a €5 super chat from Hidden Music Island who says, "Hey, Sunday mornings have become so sweet." Yeah, that's some. I'm glad that at least people who live on the other side of the globe are benefiting from us being incredibly late with our
Yeah, because it's
our
like
show.
it's actually like daytime, and
Yeah, there's a bunch of people who can never make the show normally who get to at this time. So I'm glad it benefits you guys, especially. It reminds me of doing the pub crawl back in the day because it was Australian afternoon. Like Cider was just getting off work and I'd be at like 4 in the fucking morning.
all crawl in your pub.
But anyways, yeah. So I know exactly what shows I want to cover from each decade for at least the first like 2 to 5 years of this podcast. Because of the fact that some of these shows are going to go on for so long, it's not very hard to plan out like enough to keep going. Like for instance, Monster, 75 episodes. If we reach if let's say at the end of this year we were capable of doubling the number of episodes we do, it would still take us till like I think 6 months after that. Like we'd be 25 episodes in,
Oh yeah.
and then it would take 6 months to get 50 episodes through. So
So we get a year of Monster, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, we get a year of Monster if we are able of speeding up. If we're not, then we end up with a year and a half of Monster. After that, my 2000s pick is Nana. 48 episodes. So that's either another half of a year or another whole year. So it won't take me very long to stack up 10 shows, 20 shows that I know I want to cover, and they're going to make it so nothing else is going to be covered by the natural process of the show. So that's where bonus episodes come in.
Ooh.
I'm not really interested in doing like the little 13 episode shows on the main podcast because they'll blink and they'll be over. You won't remember the journey that you took with those shows. They're just seasonal fluff, but in a cosmic sense. So we're gonna put all that kind of shit into
fluff.
the bonus episode.
Is it made of marshmallows?
It is.
Ooh,
Every time we've done the suggestions for bonus episodes, it's been pretty predictable. People, because of the fact that we're only going to do 13 episodes at a time, people usually suggest a 13 episode or less show. Pretty much all of the art house, weird, interesting, unique anime get
like
brought
Dead Man
up.
Wonderland.
So I pretty much decided I'm going to make a pool of all of the everything that can be a bonus episode for the next few years, and I'll just make the poll that you decide which one of them is going first. So just to put everything out on the table and basically lay out like here's what's possible for this show. Let's go through. Here's my bonus episode possibilities. We could do Mob Psycho 100 one season at a time, because otherwise, whenever season 4 comes out, if we've caught up, we'll just cover it. But we're not really planning to go back through seasons of shows we've covered unless it's for bonus episodes because people really want us to. Odd Taxi, Ping Pong, The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, one season at a time, and the movie would probably have to be its own episode because it's so fucking long. Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinju, one season at a time. Tatami Galaxy, One Punch Man, Mononoke, Ayakashi,
Is
Land of the
Mononoke
Lustrous.
different than Princess Mononoke?
Yes, it is
Okay.
different. Barakamon, Bakano, Kizumonogatari, we would actually do all 3 movies for that one if it wins, which I could see winning just on that basis. Madoka Magica, Hellsing Ultimate, we'll do the Monogatari series 1 season at a time.
Did you put Hellsing Ultimate Abridged in there too?
No, but we'll talk about that if we do it. Spice and Wolf, Kids on the Slope, Girls Last Tour, Serial Experiments Lane, Doro Hey Doro, It Invaded, Heike Monogatari, Sunny Boy, and Dragon Maid. Again, anything that's more than 1 season, we do 1 season at a time. But those are the shows that I don't really want to cover on the main series, but I would be interested in doing bonus episodes. If it's one of those a month, I think I just named like 30 or so shows. And it's at least like 3 years worth of potential bonus episode possibilities. Once we clear all those out, then we'll move on to the next set. Or if something like never gets votes, I'll just kill it,
Hi, Bonnie Renmei, Amy Worrell asks.
I already have an anime alphabet on that really says everything I have to say, so I'm not really interested in going through it again. These are all shows that I definitely know, I'll have something to say about this fucking thing. Bird's showing me weird memes that I couldn't possibly fucking explain in a verbal way on the podcast.
You said it's for adults.
How the fuck am I supposed to describe what I'm even looking at?
So, it's the Chad meme guy, and he's looking at a Wendigo.
That's a Wendigo.
And
okay.
so, who need they
The Wendigo is
Wendigo
blushing. Jesus Christ, I didn't even get the joke until you explained it just now. Who need they Wendusiate, said the Chad to the Wendigo that's blushing like an anime schoolgirl and saying, OMG me. Okay, so anyways, here are some... So, from the 2020s... There's not going to be usually a need for us to go back because, we're probably going to cover most of the really good shows on the first pass. But if anything, comes up that, we miss, maybe we'll go back to it. But here's some that I know of that maybe we'll cover as just, part of the main show. The Great Pretender, Spy Family, Osama Ranking, B-Stars, Summertime Render. 2000s. I want to cover Aria. I want to cover Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. Nodame Cantabile Planets. Honey and Clover, The 12 Kingdoms. From the 90s. I want to get to Cowboy Bebop next. I want to do Revolutionary Girl... Oh, wait, we are doing Revolutionary Girl Utena. I meant to say I want to do Yu Yu Hakusho. And, from the 60s, we'll probably do Cyborg 009. So, yeah. Oh, and Galaxy Express 39, I think, is from the 70s. We had to do that so that we can keep Butthole Weeb alive to come talk about it with us. So yeah, those are sort of my vague plans for the future of this podcast. I guess we should start the fucking podcast now. It's been half an hour.
So it has.
Pay us on the websites we mentioned. Yeah. Woohoo!
We can't
do you
want
to talk about this show, Psalm 100? Compared to The Office, that would be heaven.
This starts off with this guy being really depressed, eating ramen, saying, "Man, my job sure sucks."
He's watching a zombie movie and thinking that that would be better than his current life.
Be careful what you wish for.
This is a show that probably couldn't have hit for me if I had watched it under any circumstances other than what we did, which was pretty much just having driven across the country, way over stimulated, brain malfunctioning. Also kind of upset because we our gas is covered, but we didn't get paid to cross the country. So, I was pretty upset at the job and the nature of the job as we went into watching this show and seeing this was a weird thing where this show made me both feel better and worse about my job at the same time. Where I appreciate all the reasons.
What did they do to us?
So yeah, we talk a lot on this show about the sketch comedy series I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. There's just one sketch where the premise is that this guy was
the
sitting...
Darline Doggy Door.
he created a doggy door to prevent this situation that happened to him, and he's advertising it and explaining the situation. And like basically his neighbors sent a pig into his house wearing a mask,
A Richard Nixon mask.
and he thought
And
it
for
was
60 seconds, I thought that was a monster.
he thought it was just some kind of like fucked up weird monster that was gonna kill him. And in the like couple of seconds that he thought it was a monster, the thought that crosses his mind is, I don't have to go to work tomorrow. And he's just like, what
Seriously?
the fuck is up with that? What did they do to me? What did they do to us? That is this show. That sketch is this whole show. It's this guy is just watching monster movies and being like, yeah, that's, I'd rather be in a zombie apocalypse than keep on working. And so that's a very dark place to introduce our character, but we will completely understand why he feels this way as he goes to his job.
It flips back around. He's really happy because he's going to start his job at an ad agency, and he's very excited to change the world.
The first scene, he shows up, he's all bright and poppy, and everybody at the office is like, greeting him kindly and taking him around, and he's just like excited about going into the workforce. And then they go out for drinks that night, and everybody's being all nice and shit. There's this one like cute girl who works there, and he's all excited because she's totally his type. She's everyone's type. She's just really generically hot.
Just like Ai Hoshino from Oshinoko.
Yeah, kinda. She's at least that much of a hoe. And yeah, so he's like out drinking, having a good time, and then everyone's like, all right, let's go back to the office. And he's like, what? What do you mean? We go home at some point, right? And so his very first night, they pull an all-nighter, and he's just like,
I think it's
wow.
his first 3 nights he's stuck at this
Yeah,
office.
turns out he just does not end up getting to go home for a while. And it's constant overwork, constant too much pressure. There's one higher up who's constantly screaming at everybody and just acting like it's their fault that he's acting that way. Just a totally abusive company. The few times he does manage to get home, he's always just eating packaged noodles and watching TV and just wondering
until his
what
apartment's filled with
fuck
trash.
am I doing? And we gradually realize as well that this guy was a jock in high school. He's not used to doing nothing, he was not an anime geek or whatever. He's totally just regressed into I'm so exhausted from work I cannot do anything physical at all. So there's the one girl he likes at work who, whenever she's nice to him, it's the one golden moment of respite he gets, until she just walks off with the fat, gross, weird CEO, and
they start banging in the file room.
Yeah, they just go right for it, in a way that is clearly meant to be noticed by everyone. So yeah, she's a hoe. She's a gold digging hoe, and there's kind of a period in the middle of the episode, because when he pulls her into the closet, she's like, no, not here, and he's like, oh, the walls are thick, and it's literally a fucking glass pane, everyone can see what's happening. But you have some level of plausible deniability that maybe she's really got a good reason, or she doesn't like the guy or something, but by the end of the episode you're pretty sure that she's just she's fucking this guy because he's got the money, man. He's the boss, he's in charge. She's just a hoe, but she's really nice to him, so he is ideating over her throughout the early part of the episode. And then he basically reaches rock bottom, and the world is completely gray, and he just can't even see colors anymore. Yeah, and then one day, all of a sudden, there's a zombie outbreak, and
the blood is all different kinds of cool colors, like Danganronpa, but that's only pink.
It reminds me of Splatoon. And this show has kind of a Splatoon energy to it as well. I have to mention, it doesn't come through as much in the screen caps, but the animation in this show is crazy. It uses a lot of digital effects. I really enjoyed the use of the letterbox, aspect ratio, everything being super wide, and you get like a lot of this extra detail. There's lots of 3D environments where the camera's swooshing around and stuff, but the lighting does a good job of like making the 2D and the 3D stuff look good together. Tons of just big, explosive, cathartic, satisfying animations, even in the like early sad part of the episode. Like, it does a great job of building this frustration and tension rubber band that breaks in the second half. You know, where you go through the whole first half like, oh god, this is just miserable. Like, life sucks for this guy, and then the second half is like,
wow, hey, this guy's having a great time.
Yeah, in spite of I mean, look at him.
So as soon as he
look
discovers
at the exuberance in his face,
that the world has fallen into a zombie outbreak, he cheers and goes, I don't have to go to work anymore.
I'm free. He literally screams, I'm free. And like, yeah, it's like him running from an entire zombie army.
Really fast zombies too. They're like superpowered.
Oh yeah, it's not one of them slow zombie shows. It's one of those like video game-esque, like big horde chasing after you quickly. But yeah, he doesn't really have much problem like dispatching the zombies and just like moving along. And as soon as he realizes that work is over, he's having a good time. So he immediately realizes, well, what about that girl? Like, I gotta get to her house, see if she's all right. He shows up, and of course
the boss is there, and he's a zombie.
And he's just this fucking gross, bloated, horrible monstrosity, vomiting color blood.
Not that much
like,
different from what he was.
No, but you know, just, and there's this really fun scene where, you know, the main character like gives his like resignation very politely, like with
Thank
this.
you for everything you've done for me.
Yeah,
I've
like,
learned so much.
And then literally football tackles him through several walls of this tiny little Japanese apartment and out the window. The animation is fucking nuts in this scene. Very cathartic.
Yeah, the show looks awesome.
He falls out the window and dies. And then, of course, but what about her? Is she all right?
Yeah, of course.
Is she worth it?
She's a zombie.
Well, you know, because you're wondering, like, is the anime gonna try to turn this character around? Is she gonna be the waifu? Is there gonna be more to her as a kid? No,
I still would.
No. I mean, she looks cool, but I don't know. I was glad that he's gonna put this whole this is, you know, she's a mess. You don't need to worry about this hoe.
This hoe.
You gotta move on. It's time for greener pastures.
Oh, he met a girl though.
No, he doesn't actually meet her in this episode, does he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does.
I don't remember them introducing the other girl. I remember you looking her up and then showing me a picture of her.
Oh, well, that probably did happen. Eventually, a girl shows up. That's different.
But yeah, this episode is literally just what if the Matrix just broke down? Like, you didn't have to break free of it. It just malfunctions and breaks around you. And you're just like, oh shit, I guess I gotta survive on my own now. It's really fun. It looks really fucking good. The animation is fucking crazy. This show, between this, Jujutsu Kaisen, and watching Witch from Mercury, which, you know, I just missed out on, but I think started last year, the bar is higher. Like, just the bar for what you can do in TV anime has been raised to a level where we're going to look at some shows that are like...
They look really, really bad.
Look really bad in comparison. Not the next one. My Son Ikkoku looks great. But yeah, I really enjoyed Zom 100. It hit me right at the right moment in life to be like, I get this guy. And like, again, it both made me feel better and worse. Because at first I was feeling worse because I was like, yeah, my job exploits my labor. But then I was like, yeah, but my job's cool. And like, I don't hate it. And this guy's job...
All jobs exploit labor. Down with capitalism.
This guy's job doesn't really have any positives. It really sucks. And I know lots of people live much worse lives even than this. So, you know... Anyway, that's enough about Zom 100. Let's talk about Maison Ikkoku. This show is cute and funny and a little bit perverse and adult, but in a way that's, like... This show's definitely less creepy than, like, Ranma or Urusei Yatsura, just by virtue of the characters are older. And, they're a little bit more, like, set in their ways. They're not, like, trying to figure themselves out they're like fully realized people except for the main guy, but that's also kind of what everyone looks down on him for. Like why he's getting so much abuse is that he's just not an adult yet. You know, he doesn't understand. Actually, this kind of reminds me of Fooly Cooley a little bit. Like the character Naota in that show, where he sees all the adults around him as like just screwing around, and he's very self-serious, but like everything he's serious about doesn't matter. Um, that's kind of how everybody sees this character, and like this screenshot at the start I think emphasizes it well, where the girl's just looking at him like, what is wrong with you?
Because
Like
he just bought a manager girl a gift, and he's just daydreaming about like how it's gonna go when he gives it to her and says that he loves her, and then he walks into a door.
I didn't get a picture of it, but I don't understand what the gift was.
It's like a necklace or something. I don't know. I actually don't know what it is either.
I think it's like a brooch. I don't know what a brooch is, but I think that's might be what it is. It's just like this little silver like medallion thing with a moon crescent on it. I have to assume that the point is that it's like such an obscure trinket that there's no way she's gonna like it. Like she's gonna look at it and go, "Oh, you got me something," you know? Like it's the epitome of like a non-committal. I don't know. It's a pretty looking trinket, but he doesn't.
It's
understand.
like a wreath. Like if you just got someone a wreath.
Even a wreath serves like an obvious immediate purpose. It looks like it's just a hunk of metal.
So you're saying you're not going to return the wreath?
Return the wreath? Is
Never
that
mind.
a
Never mind.
meme? So yeah, he buys this thing. I just love that he's got this like intense look on his face, and she's just looking at him like, this
What the
guy's
fuck
got
is
a
going on with
fucking
this guy?
issue.
Oh.
There's a lot of great expressions in this show.
So as he leaves the store, he walks into the glass door, and then it just like has the shot of him being face first in the glass door, and like 6 people making fun of him, just random people
oh
in the
yeah,
mall.
I do remember that.
I thought that was really fun because he's a dummy. Then we find Kentaro, I think is the kid's name, playing with Soichiro, who is the dog, and the dog's cool. I like the dog.
The main gag of this scene is that aside from Kentaro and I can't remember manager girl's name, they're the only two who refer to Soichiro by by his real name, Soichiro. Everyone else has come up with their own
snowy,
nickname
fluffy,
for the dog.
What's the other one?
And also they're all feeding it like random snacks that it really shouldn't have. So they're just spoiling her dog, which is making her really upset, not as much with them as at the dog for allowing itself to be spoiled in such a way.
Which is strange behavior.
I think it's because of the fact that she named this dog after whoever is the most important person to her, and so she's got some kind of very high expectations of its like nobility or something, like being similar to Soichiro. And her hopes have been shattered by this interaction. So basically, Red Hair is like, hey, my fucking roof is broken. Can you come fix it? I should also mention that there's a scene. This show, it has a lot of just kind of slice of life scenes of like listening to some nice music and watching characters go around vibey locations in 80s Japan, which is all really nice. It's very soothing. It's definitely my favorite. Like, put this one on last and let all the sort of, the tenseness.
It's the spiritual healing that Skip and Loafer was last season.
Exactly. It fills that same role for me. Even though this is like a much more, I guess, cynical show.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's got, particularly the artwork and the music bring out so much like heart and warmth that it never feels too like cruel. And this episode, you feel more like why the main character deserves to get bullied, and we'll see that coming up here because like Red Hair asks for the roof to be fixed
because it's gonna rain and there's leaks in the roof.
And manager girl's like, I'll just do it myself. So she goes up on the roof and she's working on it and she's thinking about Soichiro and missing him. And then they realize at some point that she has not come down. She's been up there for a while.
While she's up there, it cuts to what's his fucking name?
The main guy. Yeah. I
Excuse
don't
me.
blame you for not remembering, because I don't either. And,
It cuts to main guy who's laying under the part that manager girl is working on right now, and
yeah.
he's just laying there daydreaming as like roofing falls onto his face.
Oh, yeah, he's, like, laying underneath where she's working and thinking, like, oh, she's only separated from me by, like, a few inches, and it's like dust is falling directly onto his face.
And then
That
he gets
was a really
up from
funny
that,
scene.
and he like goes to tell her through the roof, I guess, that he loves her as like a trial run. And as he's doing this, red-haired girl pops up behind him and goes, "Hey!" But when she says "hey,"
Yes.
her lips like become her whole head, and it's really
Oh
fun.
yeah, I forgot about that shot. You took a photo of it.
I'll
And
put it in the
tweeted
Discord.
I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like her mouth becomes gigantic for like one frame, and it's really fucking funny. Again, the cartoon expressions in this are fucking amazing. But yeah, so like basically he came home with a bunch of cup ramen, and it's like, this has to last me all month.
Well, because
And
he
she,
spent like half of his monthly budget on that gift for manager lady.
Oh yeah,
and so he's eating
a
skimpy.
fucking idiot. So she shows up and is like, I'm gonna tell her about what your little scheme to tell her you love her if you don't give me one of those. And then
Well,
when
because
he does,
she doesn't like. She actually starts trying to buy one, and he's just an asshole.
yeah.
And it's like, nah, I'm not gonna sell you ramen.
When she does get the ramen off of him, then she tells him she's got a boyfriend, the manager. Now, we don't know if this is true. All we know is that there is somebody who she considers very important that her dog is named after. I would bet it's like her granddad or something. But I think she also mentions another name when she's talking to the dog, but I can't remember. But yeah, she's got something else going on, and he's really, really worried about it. Really worried about trying to investigate it. But she happens to pass out while she's working on the roof, and he goes up to help, but finds her passed out, and Shinji Ikari's it.
So
He just decides, let's have us a little grope.
It starts raining. She runs like almost off of the roof to get. I don't remember what.
Well,
it is.
he was trying to kiss her while she was just passed out there.
That is true.
Like,
He is
he's
a
going
pervert.
in for the kiss, and then she feels the rain and wakes up and starts like, accidentally running off the roof, and then he
grabs her,
rescues her, but takes the opportunity to get that little grope in, and she raises her hand with the thunder of God behind it and slaps the shit out of him.
He's got a mark on his face when we cut to him next.
I think she should have hit him right in the testicles.
That would have been a good move. He might have been into that though.
That's true. That's true. This is I do think there is a strange kind of maturity in this compared to, say, like, there's a lot of like perverted guys getting slapped by girls in Rumiko Takahashi manga. Usually there's some reason that they accidentally grope the girl or whatever. In this case, like, he's just it's just letting you know, like, yeah, this guy is a man-child, and he deserves all of the pain that he's going to be put through. I saw some people in the Discord who said that, like, the show literally just got easier for them to watch when they realized that he deserved it. Like, which is what all the characters were telling you. They were all saying, like, look, you gotta understand, he's a pervert. Like, you think he's just some Ronin, but we promise you, he's so
just
caught
as
up.
bad as we are.
And it really does become clear that, like, the reason he's so unsuccessful in schoolwork is he's not worried about schoolwork fucking at all. He's worried about... Conceptually, he's concerned about the schoolwork, but all he actually thinks about is how to get tail. He finds out the little kid knows about the existence of Soichiro,
who he thinks is the manager's boyfriend.
Yes, he just assumes this is the boyfriend, which, it could be the name of a boyfriend or whatever, but he doesn't know that. He just knows the name, and he thinks, it's her boyfriend. But the kid knows about Soichiro, so he tells the kid, take me to this Soichiro guy, and I'll. Like, he was gonna try to pay him in ramen, and the kid's like, ramen? I want money. And I was like, based.
Smart kid.
So yeah, he pays the kid. And then the kid's like, meet me in the park and I'll introduce you. And he's like, literally starts like working out, like trying to buff himself up. I thought that was a pretty adorable scene. I love the way Rumiko Takahashi writes just meat-headed men, like, just the dumbest fucking guys trying to get laid and failing miserably.
That's how it goes sometimes.
Especially if you're trapped in a Takahashi
would transition have saved her?
No,
Okay.
no, not this idiot. Anyway, so this is a fun scene where
Red Hair invites everyone out for some kind of
they all
party.
go out to like a mixer basically, or a party of some sort, and these old guys are getting way too handsy with the manager, trying to be like, oh, you're too good for these guys, you should come work for our company, we give you like a nice position. And you see her eyes go directly to the hand. She's very uncomfortable. I guess
I bought a sweater like that.
to me, this is where we really solidify her character as, like, she's a woman of boundaries. She really does not want to be casually approached like this. She, obviously has beat up the main character already because he's, like, way over the top being a pervert about it. But, like, the discomfort is always there. And it's because, guys just think they can put their hands all over her. And she's like, what the fuck what are you... Bird is just, like, putting his hand on my shoulder. Menacingly is not the word I would use, but...
I just really want you to come work in my company.
But yeah, so... she immediately switches spots to sit between the two guys from her apartment, but then he immediately puts his hand on her, same expression, even more intense. Wait, I've gone out of the frying pan into the fire, and he's acting offended as if he wouldn't do the same thing. I actually saw this reminds me of a meme. I think somebody posted this in the Discord where it's like, no, I saw this on Twitter. Somebody comes up to a table and, like, spikes the drink while the other person's not looking, and then somebody else comes over to tell them, like, oh, that guy spiked your drink, but while they're telling them, somebody comes and spikes their drink, and it just keeps going for, like, 6 people, of, like, everyone spiking each other's drinks.
Eventually, they just all drink it, right?
I assume so. But, yeah, no, it just kind of loops. Anyway, so, yeah,
the night after the party, he's asleep and he's got an alarm clock and everything. Or I guess the night of the party. Yeah. And then Redhead comes in drunk, singing... Yes. Oh, I think it's Christmas. It's got to be Christmas.
That's right. It's like Christmas Eve or something. And she comes... Yeah.
She comes in drunk singing Jingle Bells, I think. Gets into bed with him, realizes that she's in bed with him, and then kicks him out of his own room.
Yeah, not realizing that she's in his room. So then he gets the manager, and it's like, I don't know what's going on. She just came in, and they can't get her out. So they're like, fuck it. She's like, you can come hang out with me. So he comes over to her place, and they start playing, not Go.
Othello is what it's called.
Othello.
Apparently it's a meme that people get Othello confused with Go.
Well, it looks a lot like it, but this is the one where you flip the tiles instead of just playing tiles. We've been playing, or at least I've still been playing Go recently. I don't know if you're going to pick up
I'll have to
Go
download
on phone. If anybody wants to play Go with me on, what is this app called? If you know how to play Go, you're probably better than me. Surround is the app I've got. I've been playing against Quinn, who is very good at Go, and getting my fucking ass kicked continually. Every match I play against anybody online, I get absolutely destroyed. So, if you want to win at Go, go ahead and challenge me. I just played my
What is your username?
Quinn. Oh, shit. I think it's
Goldie
Witch. Yeah, all one word, Goldie Witch.
I am downloading this Go app.
Yeah, they're not playing Go, though. I guess that's all the screen caps I got for this.
He fails to give the gift to her. The kid comes out.
Yeah, the kid ends up giving her a gift when he was about to...
The kid gave her this, but that was earlier in the episode. The kid just interrupts them.
Yeah.
And then I don't quite remember if anything happens.
I think he's like about to give it to her, but he just can't say it straight, He just can't get it out. Oh yeah, the kid comes into the room looking for the bathroom.
Yeah, and the girl has to take him away.
And he's just like, I guess I get to enjoy a white Christmas, I guess. So And this is I think this is a good scene for a romance anime. I hope he reflects on it at some point, because I think that when you're in a relationship with somebody in the early stages, where like you're so concerned about like literalizing your relationship by getting a nut, it's hard to realize that like most of what a relationship is just hanging out, like being in the same place together. Like,
Are they cashews or almonds?
so like, even if you have sex like literally all the fucking time, there's still a significant amount of life is like just hanging out, and that is the part that has to be enjoyable for the relationship to work.
I guess we have to have a lot more sex, because I'm not enjoying hanging out with you, Devin.
But like, so in this scene, if they're capable of just having a nice time playing Othello, then that's really what he should be focused on. Of course, I don't know if he was having a nice time or just freaking out inside of his mind about how he's gonna get that nut, but maybe one day we'll watch this character grow up.
We'd have to. I mean, I saw there's a bunch of like spin-offs, like Maison Ikkoku, the ending, and Maison Ikkoku.
Oh, is that true? They're like,
I think so. I saw it on the web, or the totally legitimate, the Crunchyroll we watched it on.
the Crunchyroll we watched it on. All right. Well, yeah, that's a cute show. I hope everybody ends up checking it out. I want to put some of the anime towards the front that like I'm excited about getting people to watch that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise.
All right, so this next one we have is Revolutionary Girl Utena, the Prince from Mercury.
The Prince from Mercury.
So we watched the prologue episode last week, and that was really cool.
Yeah, the prologue was crazy, and this is episode 1, and like people told me, well, it's more standard, like girl introducing herself to school, and like it's not as crazy amazing as the prologue or whatever. So I had my expectations like fairly low. Like I don't know. I guess I thought somehow the production value was going to be lesser. This show
awesome.
looks insane. It looks insane. The whole time you're watching it, you're just like, how the fuck did they animate all of this? I don't know if it's going to be possible for the next episode to be as crazy as the prologue in episode 1 have been, but it really gives me the feeling like the few studios that are really doing crazy stuff right now, like, I kind of hope they have just poached all of the good talent, and I hope they're paying them decently. I know they're not, but like, I used to say that the biggest problem with the anime industry was that like there's too many new studios, too many people doing too many different things, and not enough like shows that just have everybody good on them. And like we started to see that with like One Punch Man, and just like more and more like these big hype shows that get like the organization of, yeah, every cool animator is gonna do this. I would be shocked if Sunrise hasn't picked up every single person who can draw robots good. Mappa has picked up everybody who can draw fights good. Zom 100's pretty unique, so that was an exciting one to see. But
who made that?
I don't know, actually. But yeah, the Witch from Mercury looks fucking crazy.
Oh, we did forget about in Zom 100, like, he makes a bucket list of things he wants to do before he becomes a zombie.
I keep forgetting what the subtitle of the show is, but it's The Bucket List of the Dead.
Yeah.
Of course. But anyway, this show, we were introduced to the main character when she was a child. So, like, we just kind of saw her as, like, this upbeat, friendly little kid before her fucking dad was slain. And in the show, we are introduced to her as a teenager, and I think it's interesting to note that, like, she's got, like, a baby face, and kind of, like, she's got big eyebrows and kind of looks like a K-On! Character in the face. But, like, physically, she's quite big. She's, like, tall, she's got broad shoulders, we don't really see her in, like, any kind of clothing that would show off what her body looks like in this, but from what I've seen in fan art, she's quite muscular, and I think it's interesting that like she's like a more physically imposing girl than what her face would imply, but her personality is still very much like innocent, kind of naive, and I guess that's probably why they kept her face that way. But the main draw of this show for me is the fucking setting design.
There's a huge school. We're getting a big wide shot of it at the beginning of the episode as the main character approaches it to establish, wow, what a big area. I wonder what all that could be used for. Certainly not duels.
This show has an amazing soundtrack, very epic, very, very fun, but I could hear the Utena music playing in my head during certain scenes. But, like, I really think everything this show is doing that Utena did, this show is one-upping that. Like, yeah, Utena's got a crazy school, right? It's got a big tower that looks like a penis. The whole thing looks kind of like just
a big tower that looks like a penis.
Yeah, the main central tower is
I don't remember Utena's school that well.
The Utena school's got it's got a big bush. It's got a dick in a bush. It's a bunch of sexual symbolism. This thing is like a comet with a cool space station.
It's got 2 pairs of titties and a dick in the middle.
I don't know. I just think this thing looks fucking sick. It looks like
it's gotta be a gun, right? It's gotta be like a laser gun.
It could be all kinds of things. Like, it really sparks the imagination. It gets the noggin jogging. And then you're told it's a school, and you're like, what? What the fuck kind of school is that? What do they have there? What is the necessity of children going to a place like this for school? Which is the same question you're asking yourself at the start of Utena. Like, what? That's school? Okay. What the fuck? Like, same feelings, but even cooler school. And, like,
can you even be too cool for this school? It turns out you can.
I've seen people criticizing this show, calling it things like Diet Utena and Diet Evangelion.
I don't think it's very diet.
I don't think so either. I think those shows... So, I think that obviously this show is the product of those ones. But, like, to me, this is like the next level, more so than like a regression. And I can understand if, like, what really draws you to Utena and Eva is the weirdness of it, the very expressive artwork. But I think that this show is capable of being direct about a lot of the things those shows were being more metaphorical about because they didn't have any fucking money. Where, like, anime, I mean, it's always been made on a shoestring budget. Necessity is the mother of invention, and we are going to talk about that plenty as we talk about the shows that are coming. When we get into Speed Racer and stuff, which, like, was, for its time, very cutting edge, comparing that to this is, like, I mean, if you want to...
Speed Racer is obviously more well animated.
If you want to really feel like 70 years of animation development come coursing through your veins, watch Speed Racer and then watch Gundam, The Witch from Mercury, and it's like the technological leap is fucking huge. And
this show looks so good.
I think both shows look good, honestly, but the thing about it is most anime has to abstract certain things, where, like, to me, one of the great strengths of the medium is how it can bounce between images that are more literal and then images that are more metaphorical but have less detail. So, like, with Utena or Eva, there's lots of times where there's just not really that many lines on screen or that much, like, color on screen. It doesn't cost that much to draw, but the composition of the image is really striking. And that is, in its own way, like, meaningful and impressive. But what's also really fucking impressive is
my mom
is literally drawing all of those lines, literally drawing all of that action, following through on every animation. And, like, this show looks crazy. When they show up at the place, like, it looks kind of like Nerve. And while they haven't described it in a way that's as interesting as what is described when we get to Nerve, of, like, how the geodome and everything works, like, just looking at it is super impressive, and there's so much story that's told just in the visuals to make it feel like a realistic place. Like, even though the story of this anime seems completely fucking preposterous, not unlike Utena, it also feels way more grounded and like we could take it somewhat seriously. Utena is presented like a fairy tale. Like, it outright is saying to you, like, this is about a princess whose parents died and a prince came to her.
This is
a
show about giant robots fighting in space. It's a fairy tale.
It is literally a fairy tale, but it doesn't present itself that way. It presents itself like this is a military sci-fi drama, about teens in space. And, like...
It's better than Dune.
I also know for a fact that this show is going to get way more, like, violent and real than Utena does. Like, Utena's not,
There was an attempted assassination in this episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the fucking prologue, like, everybody died, Like, we know that characters are... Like, spoilers for Utena, there's not really death in Utena. It's not, like... It's a show about dueling,
Seonji doesn't die?
No, I don't think Seonji ever dies.
That guy should die.
I don't think so. But, like, again, it's a show about dueling. This is a show also about dueling, but, like, during war, where, like, there's obviously going to be way bigger things going on. So, yeah, to me, it's like there are lots of elements that are so obviously Utena-esque that it's, like, painful. There's literally a Rose Bride. This is her. She just... All of the same rules that apply to Anthe in Utena literally apply to this girl. Like, there's duels fought over her. Whoever wins gets to marry her, I guess.
Cool. After a certain point through this show, I was just like, okay, it's Utena. It's just Utena.
It just is Utena. But it's not. It's got differences, but, like, the parts that are, it's shocking how direct it is. Like, that's a weird thing to copy from Utena, is, like, the whole Rose Bride concept.
Yeah.
Especially because it's established in this show, like... Basically, as soon as they get to the school, like, there's just robots fighting in the middle of the fucking place. I'm just saying that sentence reminded me of this TV on the radio song where this robot voice is like, all these robots fucking in the middle of the mini mall.
Ooh, I want to be a part of that.
Robots fucking in the middle of the mini mall. Robots fucking in the car wash. And then it just goes on and on about places robots are fucking. Anyway, these robots are fighting in the middle of the space colony, and it turns out that it's because here at this school they just have duels over, like, whatever you're disputing about. You
Money,
mad at something?
Marriage.
Fucking duel about it.
It's about respect.
My guess would be...
discipline and respect, my bad.
My guess would be that what this show is trying to go for is, like, they're trying to create sort of a culture of violence with these children that, like, encourages them to want to go fight and, like, settle their disputes with violence. Otherwise, it just seems a little fucking ridiculous that, like, this is just what they do, is they get in big robots and they have duels. But again, just everything, the whole, like, establishing segment of this episode where it's just showing you the technology, showing you the space stations, and, like, playing the big epic music. I felt very engaged, even if I wasn't necessarily super involved yet, because I don't really know the characters. I don't really remember exactly what she was interrupting that made this girl so upset with her.
She was interrupting her escape. She was floating in space to escape the school.
Okay.
To not have to marry that asshole.
Okay, so she's flat out... So again, that's something that's very different from Utena. Because in Utena, Anthe is totally, like, resigned to being the Rose Bride. She's just like, that's what I do. Yeah, this girl is like, I'm leaving. I don't want to do this anymore.
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
So, yeah, that's actually a very important difference between those characters. And also an important difference here, whereas Utena is, like, widely beloved at her school for being a badass. Well,
this is literally her first day, too.
Yeah, but Utena was not bullied on her first day. She was just, like, immediately popular, except for by the teacher, the one bitch teacher who didn't like her outfit. And Utena, like, shrugged that bitch off. Like, Utena's an incredibly strong-willed character, and that is not the way I would describe this girl. She's kind of getting bullied, and she's a little bit oblivious about it. She kind of doesn't really realize exactly what these girls are trying to say about her. But she's not really like trying to stand up for herself or show anybody up. She's literally sitting down like while these girls stand around her. This is not something Utena would ever do. Anyway, I guess I skipped over where she meets the blue-haired girl that looks like Liko from Pokemon. I thought I had a screen cap of that girl.
That girl is a second year in engineering. That's all I know about her.
Yeah, I know she like shoos away the bullies and like wants to be friends with the main girl, I think. But eventually, main girl like finds the girl who she interrupted.
Well, no, what happens is there's like a big robot fight in that pavilion after the girls are making fun of her with the Saionji of this world. I forget what his name is.
Oh, right. We watch her
Kuhl?
losing the duel against him, and that's how the duels are explained to us.
We watch someone losing a duel against him.
In any case...
And then
him winning the duel is why she's like...
It wasn't that duel.
That guy. No? Oh, okay. So that was just somebody who was trying to get her from him.
Someone fighting a duel with him.
Okay.
No. So, he's the Kuhl, I think is his name. The Saionji type. He, like, takes down the other robot right in front of them and almost kills the witch from Mercury.
I see.
Because she was just looking at the Gundam.
And Silverhair kind of, like, yanks her away and is like, you dumb bitch, what are you doing?
Exactly.
And then she finds Silverhair at, like, I guess her house, which is just, like, a pod in the woods somewhere on this school colony. She has a shitload of potted plants, which is very nice. It's very cute, like all the flowers. And this asshole who she's supposed to be marrying to, he goes really Saionji mode. He doesn't slap her in the face like
he tries.
But instead just starts destroying all of her things, which is a tactic I've seen from the same types of people, so I think it checks out. He just starts breaking all her potted plants, and she's like kind of just gritting her teeth about it, because regardless, she seems to be just generally pretty weak. I thought maybe she was like a badass pilot or something, but no, she doesn't know how to pilot a robot. She's easy to throw around. She's very strong-willed, but just literally physically weak, and therefore, like, this guy can just kind of, have his way with her in this weird, very violent-driven society. He's also, like, the son of the guy who runs the colony or whatever, so...
No, he's the son of one of the 3 main holders of a Blubla group.
Of a Blubla group?
I forget what the name of the group is, but it's like, so it's kind of like a corporate war is what I'm gathering here. We cut to that for a little bit, where, like, the 3 lowest performing companies or whatever get axed.
It's like there's one super company that owns all these other companies.
Benerit
like,
Group.
If they fuck up even a little bit, you're just done.
You're done.
So he's destroying all her shit, and then this is also another moment where, very distinct from Utena. Utena obviously would have just stepped in and kicked this guy's ass, challenged him to a duel. She tries to plead with other people first, like, hey, isn't this like a problem? Like, do you see what's happening here? And like, she first comes to his brother, and he's just like, hey, if you want to stop him, you stop him. I don't fucking care. The other girl clearly looks like happy about it. And
there's 2 girls standing in the doorway that are just like cheering it on, pretty much.
Yeah. So like, she kind of has to realize, like, hey, none of these people are on my side. So she just spanks his ass.
It was a strange...
Straight up. Well, then she says, like, didn't your mom ever teach you, like, obviously her mom spanked her.
People.
To teach her lessons. Not too surprised, she was a military woman.
I'm just hoping we get to see more of that on the other girl.
Yeah, well, the Yuri undertones. I forgot to mention that when she interrupts the Silverhair girl's escape, Silverhair says, you have to take responsibility, which is something that, Japanese girls will say if they think they've been knocked up. You better take responsibility for whatever you're going to do. So, other people at one scene, like, literally overhear, because she says to her when, forgot about all of this happening, but, like, the Silverhair girl, like, meets her at school for the first time, and she immediately says, I'll take responsibility or whatever. And other girls overhear this and are kind of like, oh, take responsibility, huh?
When she says, I'll help you escape, too.
Yes. And the girl's like, you want to go to Earth, so you should take her up on this. And of course, our girl is from Mercury, which apparently nobody knows anybody from Mercury. It's a very strange thing about her, but we don't really know much about the culture thereof or anything. So yeah, she slaps this dude's ass and then challenges him to a duel, and he's like, absolutely, fuck you, let's do it. I don't remember if these two characters have any dialogue. I just thought they looked cool, and I was.
They do have some dialogue.
Are they like analyzing?
It's like student council, basically. He's the witness to a lot of the duels. I forget his name. He
in big air quotes. That is the most gender fluid looking character I have seen.
Well,
all
sure.
day.
He's just wearing an open shirt, and he looks like he's got pecs. That's why I say.
Looks like you.
Yeah.
But blonde.
Hey, soon.
Yeah, you want to dye your hair blonde?
No.
No.
Maybe half. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I thought these two were hot. Anyway, I think watching the duel, because what ends up happening is, even though red hair challenged the guy, silver hair's like, don't fucking fight my battles for me. So once again, totally different from Anthe. Anthe, very happy that Utena's fighting her battles for her. This girl's like, no, I'm gonna fight my battle for myself. So she takes over the mech. She just like climbs in and is like, fuck it, I'm dueling. And the guy's like, sure, whatever, I don't give a shit. And just starts kicking her ass because she doesn't know what she's doing. She vomits almost immediately, which is a very Gundam detail.
I don't remember that.
She's just got like throw up on the front of her helmet for like the rest of the episode. But yeah, here, although it's not in this shot because this is like a very fast shot of the camera panning out. But basically, after Silverhair starts getting her ass kicked, main girl comes in and is like, hey.
She uses Lico, the engineering student's credentials.
Yes. She uses her like scooter to go out to the battlefield.
And so everyone thinks it's her, but then
no,
Suletta. Well, everyone thinks it's the engineering girl.
Yeah. No, sorry, I didn't mean no as in know what you're saying. I meant no, they are wrong.
But so then Suletta goes in. Suletta is her name, I think. The Mercury girl. Anyway, she goes in and berates Miorine, I think is the other girl's name.
Yeah, Miorine. I'm sure I'll know their names one day.
And it's like, hey, this is my Gundam. You can't be driving my Gundam. I grew up with this Gundam. It's my Gundam.
They're definitely Gundam names, that's for sure. But yeah, she's really upset that the girl is in her Gundam, and I liked that a lot
because it's the only Gundam.
It is the only one, and it's hers, and she treats it like a family member. And I don't know, it also, it's good. Like, these two are obviously a lesbian couple. They're getting set up. I feel like a lot of anime, they try to go more the route of the characters kind of snidely say or do something douchey, and so they have some contention with each other, but ultimately they also have sweet moments together, so they like each other or whatever. Silverhair, she feels sort of indignant because Redhair's been fucking her shit up, right? And she's probably just I'm sick of this girl, I don't really care. But the fact that she does something she couldn't possibly understand what the Gundam means to red-haired girl, and she even when she hears her say it's family, she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is a robot, But then, Suletta is you just fucking chill, alright? You just sit back and let me do my thing. I'm not gonna lose to a dumb motherfucker like this. And the guy is like, what did you call me?
And then he just starts charging at her, and Gundam uses its shield weird bit things.
Yeah, she just fucking tears him to shreds with the bits. And, it's immediately apparent, oh, she's a real badass. But I liked the real tension in this scene is not whether or not she's gonna win. It's that she is upset with the other girl for taking her Gundam, and that's where we get the catharsis of watching her be a badass in it, and this girl kind of realizing I should not have said a fucking word. Also, when she defeats him, there's a big explosion of feathers that looks exactly like the rose petals exploding in Utena. So, it is Revolutionary Girl Utena. Oh, also, this is Revolutionary Girl Utena. So that was the witch from Mercury. Now we're going to talk about the same show again. Which already, like when I said at the top of this episode that episode 2s have a tendency to kind of drag because they have to re-solidify episode 1, this is the epitome of that. This is the most, like, there's a ton of reused footage. Like, the first couple minutes is, like, all the same shots of the school that were used in the first episode.
Yeah.
A lot of the same music.
A lot of the same music.
You go through the entire, staircase sequence, the whole elevator sequence, the whole
I can't wait to do that
Rose
every
Bride
episode.
Sequence. Not even every episode has all of them. Like, this
like
episode has a
choose.
lot of reused animation. There's flashbacks, like, there's like a recap at the start of it. So, I understand. I don't think Revolutionary Girl Utena had a lot of money put into it. The first episode looked really, really good. I'm not surprised they wanted to reuse a lot of that really, really good-looking stuff and give themselves maybe a little bit of a break after having made all of that really good-looking stuff. When we get to episode 3 and they're not reusing as much footage, there is definitely a dip in animation quality for that episode. I would say that the show is... It's I wouldn't go so far as to call it, like, inconsistent. It mostly looks really good. But, it's nowhere near the level of... I mean, I would even say, like, Maison Ikkoku had more consistent, like, just really good visuals, without having to reuse anything. So...
I don't remember what's happening in this screenshot.
So what happens at the start of this episode is Utena, like, remembers what happened to Wakaba in the last one, and she still kind of seems to be sad and not really responding. She's got her head in a book. But as Utena enters class, Wakaba finishes the book, and she says, in this book, the girl has always been in love with this guy, but then as soon as he, like, turns her down, she immediately gets with another dude. And when I first read it, I thought this book was really stupid, but now I love it. And there's this great moment where she's, like, holding the book above her head, and then she, like, turns her head and puts the book in front of her face at the same time, and then just, like, kind of slowly pulls it down. Really strong acting on the part of the character. It's got, like, this dramatic stage play flair. Makes me want to hang out with Wakaba. I would definitely be friends with her. But yeah, she
seems cool.
Basically just is saying, like, I'm over it. I want to hang out with you. I was stupid for thinking other guys could be cooler than you. This is not the last time we're going to see Wakaba fall for the trap of thinking other guys could be cooler than Utena. But that's what straights do. It's an unfortunate... It's, it's not easy out there for a straight. I just realized I have to adjust the image here. Since we're back to 4:3.
So, we get a student council meeting, and everyone's going, oh my god, someone that's not on the student council is trying to get the Rose Bride, we gotta kill her.
Yeah, we gotta do something about this. They also tell us that they get their messages from something called the End of the World.
The End of the World book, or letters, that's what
and
it is.
the End of the World is the one who explained all the rules of everything to them, which they go over again, just to make sure we understand.
Yeah, that was nice.
They're also playing cards in this scene, which every single time we see these guys, they're going to be doing something different.
Oh, interesting.
So here's our first something different, is they're playing cards.
What's your favorite something different they do?
There's one where, like, a whole train goes by, just, like, in the middle of the student council room. But that's way later. But yeah, so... the whole show kind of just, like, keeps getting more manic as it goes, I guess is how I would put it. But yeah, this interaction mostly just reestablishes plot points, adds a little bit more detail, and also Saionji is really fucking pissed because he thinks Anthy should belong to him, regardless of this whole contest. But they're like, hey, look, you can't do anything about it unless you win, so fucking you better try. Meanwhile, Utena is supposed to be staying in, like, this dorm that hasn't been used in 10 years. She's imagining it's just going to be fucked up and falling apart and awful.
She sees a really cute mouse when she imagines it's falling apart, though.
That's true. But she will see something akin to a cute mouse shortly. But she shows up and...
Anthy's not a mouse.
Anthy has cleaned the entire place because she's the Rose Bride, and she's like, "Look, I live with you. This is how it works." She like wrote
she
her
like
name.
scratched her name into the door. It was pretty funny.
Underneath Utena's. It's cute. Although now that I think about it, if that nameplate was supposed to be on this door, that is not the same door.
No, the door's like metal in the
animation. So yeah,
and Choo Choo.
This is Choo Choo. It's like a monkey, like a little tiny mouse-like monkey.
Is it a bad guy like in Card Captors? Or Madoka Magica?
No. And this one, Choo Choo's just a cute little monkey. Choo Choo's introduction is kind of the most important thing here, in that it establishes
that Choo Choo exists.
Well, it really reinforces like what Utena's thing is, right? So in this scene, Choo Choo like tries to eat too big of a cracker and starts choking. So Utena takes some of her coffee and feeds it to him and saves him, and
then Choo Choo's friends with Utena.
It was a very important dialogue. Anthy says, "This is my friend Tomodachi, my friend Choo Choo," and Utena asks, "Is he your pet? Petto?" She says, "He is my friend, Tomodachi." She does not see Choo Choo as a pet. She sees him as a friend. And after
Maybe
Utena
it's because
saves
so many
Choo Choo,
people see her like a pet.
Exactly. Yes, that is exactly what is going on here. So Utena wants to be friends with Choo Choo as well. And even if like that terminology probably doesn't mean as much to her as it does to Anthy, but like she respects Anthy in the way that she views things, so she wants to be the same way. And like through this episode we'll see well, I guess I'll get to at the end. She literally explains that like she fought Sayonji again because she knew he would bully Choo Choo if he was in control of the Rose Bride.
Yeah.
That's sort of her excuse. But basically what Anthy sees in Utena is this is a person who just categorically thinks I should protect things that are weaker than me. You know, if it can't help itself, if it can't protect itself, I can do that. And that's why she hates Sayonji so much, is that he abuses things that are weaker than him because he thinks it's a show of his strength and power. Even though through this interaction with Toga we learned that like Sayonji thinks that he only likes Anthy as like a symbol of his strength, but like there's clearly something more to it because he's obsessed with her and apparently keeps an exchange diary with her.
I don't know. I thought that was just like the way they were getting letters from the end of the world.
No, this is something personal for him. Is him and Anthy have an exchange diary. We'll learn more about it later, but there's this angle through this show where characters are often introduced at their absolute worst and most threatening, and as the show goes on, they're kind of presented as more and more pathetic. Like we really see like what they're like when they're not being an asshole, and it's like, oh, you're also just like a stupid idiot, and we'll learn more about that with everybody. But here's him being an asshole, slapping the shit out of Anthy. I mentioned on the last episode, this was a scene that I witnessed on Funimation, and like the way this scene is presented is really interesting because throughout the episode everything is kind of straightforward and cut and dry, but when these two talk, the imagery is like blurring the two of them into each other and creating this weird like dreamlike atmosphere that like gives a lot of like soap opera drama feeling to their conversation. And it's like it's kind of intense and dreamy, and then it hits a lull and Sayonji just kind of looks down for a second, and then it's just like all one frame snap animation of quaff, and she's just flying, and like there's way more frames of after the slap than before. It's just a really impactful moment, lots of build up, really heavy feeling. And again, when I saw this on TV for the first time, I was so shocked that I just like kept rewinding it and watching it again, because like, I can't believe a guy just hit a girl like fucking full Mach speed on
Mach 5
television in an anime series. So yeah, this was a shocking event to me, but it's just to reemphasize, you know, Sayonji, he's a real piece of shit. He's a real piece of work. He really thinks and
this guy eats sloppy steaks.
Before he was doing it and it was like, this is the Rose Bride. She's mine to abuse. Now it's just Anthe. He thinks it's his to abuse, which, just shows that it goes deeper than... The personality flaws go deeper than if he had the power to feel he was justified doing these things. Anyway, so they have a duel. We go through all of the rigmarole of a duel.
They're in the duel, and the castle that's above the dueling area lights up, and the soul of the prince that saved the princess in the beginning, Dios, I guess is his name.
Because she has the Sword of Dios.
Yeah.
And he had been using the Sword of Dios as well. But, as they're fighting, Sanji's like, yeah, I'm just better with swords, though, so, fuck you. Sword of Dios isn't good enough. But then...
she gets possessed by Dios himself, which they censor for some reason. I don't think they're fucking.
No, but it is a funny, I consider it like a loading screen almost.
Yeah, it twirls around like a loading screen.
Someone in the Discord mentioned, and I thought this was interesting, that, it seems as though she's being taken over, which makes you wonder, is she really fighting on her own willpower? Is it that, her willpower and the will of Dios are aligned? It's hard to say how in control Utena really is when you know that someone else is guiding her hand. And I think that's important to note because I do think it's thematically going to be explored, even if it's not directly explored by the narrative in that kind of way. But yeah, basically the episode concludes. She wins the duel, and even though she's very clear with Anthe, I don't want you, I don't want the Rose Bride, I don't want the responsibility of being your master or whatever. I just want to be your friend. But also, if other people are going to keep coming at me, I'm going to have to keep beating their asses because I don't want to watch, She doesn't say it's about her, but she clearly just doesn't want to watch her or Choo-Choo get abused. She just doesn't want to see this guy be an asshole to them, so...
And no one would want to see someone be an asshole to Choo-Choo. Choo-Choo's the best. Anthe's also adorable, but Choo-Choo is... Choo-Choo doesn't deserve anything wrong.
No, absolutely not. So I'll say I do think this is probably one of the weakest episodes of this show because a lot of it is recap, reiterating things that were pretty much already explained by the last episode, literally reusing plot beats. It's the same villain. Utena wins in an even more ridiculous fashion. But, it reinforces a lot of the themes and makes sure you really understand where the show is going. So I don't think it's a bad episode or anything, but it's going to get a lot better. It's going to get a lot better, guys. Promise. Alright. It's time for Monster.
Hey, guess what? Everything's going bad for Tenma because Tenma made a really stupid fucking decision last episode. Wow.
Yeah, and this show is really a Faustian parable, I guess. It reminds me of the story of Job in the Bible, of we're really gonna test how far you're gonna take this good person thing when every bad thing happens to you as a result of being a good person. So at the end of the last episode, he decided he was gonna save the kid who got shot in the head instead of the mayor. And the mayor ends up fucking dying. And he kind of looks at it oh, well, sorry you guys suck at surgery. And they're look, this is your fault.
You said no to the director.
You abandoned us. You broke up the team. You fucked up our stuff. Immediately they're just it's your fault this guy died. Even though he really had nothing to do with it, other than not being the one to save him. It's possible he couldn't have saved him. We'll never know.
He should have tried. That's the problem.
Right. He didn't try to save him, and he did successfully perform an outrageously amazing brain surgery to save this child.
Johan's alive.
I think it's interesting that he gets so bullied right after this, doing the surgery, that the nurse who tries to congratulate him, he just doesn't even hear it. It's there are some people who really appreciate the goodness that this guy is going to bring to the world, but it's not going to reach him with the overwhelming torrent of negativity about his actions that he's about to undergo.
He can't sleep. He's having a bad time doing the sleepy sleep because the director's on TV going, hey, the mayor died. Whoops, we tried. We did everything we could, but Johan's alive.
Yeah, and he's when he finds out that the kid is like in a coma, he's like, I'm just like him. I get the feeling that this is a sentiment this show is going to explore a lot, is like how these two might be the same.
Ooh. He's just like me for real.
Because it really is like they're both people who in opposite ways are taking fate into their own hands. One guy is like deciding people get to die, the other guy is deciding people get to live, and the consequences of that can be positive or negative. Like, probably the parents that Johan killed probably were really bad people. Johan himself, very bad person. It was probably a good thing he killed his parents, probably not a good thing that he was kept alive. Probably he wanted himself to be killed, but we don't really know the answers to these questions yet. It's just thematically seems like where this show would go. But yeah, so this is the whole process of his downfall. He shows up to the big company event, the big party, and they invite up the chief of surgery, and it's not him.
And the director goes, "Hi, you big fucking idiot. You should have listened to me, you big fucking dummy. You're never going to advance in this town again."
And he's just like, don't even, like, whatever future you thought you were going to have as a doctor, it's done. You're done. You're done, dude. You're done. So, yeah, it really is just like everyone abandoning him.
And then his wife gives his ring back and immediately starts flirting with a different doctor. Yeah, fiance, my bad.
She pulls the like she's walking into the party. He's like, "Come on, like, your dad's fucked up. Like, I didn't do anything wrong." And she just pulls off the engagement ring, goes, "You fool," drops it at his feet, and immediately goes in to talk to another guy. Now, look, I think this show hits in that it's so, like, it takes it so far, but at the same time,
it's a little far.
So the characters are pretty cartoony. Like, the bad guys are really bad. Just the fact that the director goes out of his way to be like, you know, any future you think you have, forget. Like, he really lays out exactly how fucked he is. And then she comes in and starts talking to another dude right away. It's just so, like, you know, comic book, in your face, heavy with the fuck yous.
Then he's talking to Monster Coma Kid.
Yeah, he's like, he really does think that him and this kid are alike, and that, like, he's done this good thing, and, like, you know, he's talking to him about how he had come to work for this hospital because he read this paper he was so impressed by that was supposedly written by the director, and now that he knows the truth, he's like, probably that guy didn't write that.
No.
Like, he probably just paid somebody, because even when he's at the party, he sees him talking to, like, a young doctor about his paper, you know, and, like, how he's read it, and he's all interested, so he's like, okay, I'm realizing this guy just, like, takes people's research, publishes it, makes him, you know, keeps bigifying himself, keeping his hospital big. But there's also, there's a moment where, I don't remember if it's the hospital director or whoever, somebody says, it takes everyone here to save a life at the party. And I think it's really interesting because, yeah, would there be an opportunity to even try saving these people's lives if all of these rich fucks didn't have, like, a satisfactory lifestyle around, you know, getting to promote it? Like,
yeah,
so much of what is good in the world is only good if it can be, like, comfortably achieved by people who are just, like, living, you know, a good life, which sucks. Like, it's the curse of capitalism, is, like, everybody running it is evil and they're all exploiting the labor underneath them.
Unless they want to give us money.
But, like, at the same time, their effort to make themselves more comfortable, like, sometimes leads to something cool happening, you know? So it's like, we all end up using all this crap that was generated by people just, like, trying to make their already good life even better. And occasionally it's affordable at a consumer level. But,
So Tenma continues to have his shit handed to him. He gets taken off of Johan's case because the director doesn't want him to get any more good press.
yeah.
And then he gets into an argument with the doctors that are now on his case because the director wanted to get a picture of Johan and his sister next to each other to generate good publicity and get the hospital more money. No, it looks like he's still being depressed next to the kid here.
Uh,
He's not
yeah,
wrong.
He's very determined that the director and his ex are like fucking just totally wrong about their way of seeing the world. That like people are, he thinks everybody's equal no matter what, and like just that like saving lives is the most important thing about being a doctor, and like I think this episode, I think what this show is going to do is basically like be a challenge to altruistic mindsets of like, okay, sure, in a perfect world everything you're saying is true, but because of the fact that things are the way they are, if you operate altruistically you're going to fail. So like ultimately those two people are, they are wrong on like a moral level, but they are correct on like a societal level about like, well, you have to play the game if you want to get anything done.
That's why you only ever operate in bad faith.
But yeah, is he not wrong? Well, enjoy being wrong and broke, as Sam Hyde once said. Or enjoy being right and broke. Sorry, I fucked it up because he said not wrong.
Oh my god.
Johan's waking up, and doesn't he just look like a fucking sprightly young fellow?
This is just like a scene they cut to where he opens his eyes, but when he opens his eyes, it plays like a little evil piano sting.
Yeah.
They really want you to know that this kid's bad from the get-go, which I appreciate.
So they've taken Tenma off of being in charge of the kids because they've realized that like
it's a high publicity case.
Yeah, a lot of, turns out people actually do care about this kid, and it can benefit the hospital, but not if we let Tenma be all soft and silly about it.
The director and the other two asshole doctors go so far as to say like, "Oh, this case doesn't make us any money. How do we make it make us money?"
So they realize, hey, we can get the kids to like maybe have a teary reunion, and we'll get some pictures of it. So they have the sister who's been basically like sleepwalking around, catatonic, just saying kill him for months. Who
could she be talking about?
They bring her to the room. She runs off screaming,
but
and
Johan wakes up.
Johan is left like this, and so as soon as Tenma finds out that they introduced him, he's like, why did you do this? Like, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. Also, I'm supposed to be in charge. And they're like, fuck you, you're not in charge. And also, look, we brought her in, and he saw her, he extended his hand and cried tears. He had normal behavior. He's basically healed now. And, like, I think Tenma saw this and took it as, like, a loss on his part. Like, well, fuck, maybe I should have put them in the same room. I don't think this is normal behavior because he is still holding this pose when she has left the room, and he looks
he looks distraught.
Yeah, so it's just sort of a case where like, the doctors are just seeing what they want to see. Tenma is seeing what he feels emotionally, but he's not really understanding just how weird this actually is. His naivety is going to be his undoing, if it hasn't already.
Oh, and then we cut to the two doctors and the director, and they're all dead.
Yeah, everybody who fucked over Tenma just died.
Killed them.
Very mysterious. And I really love this particular shot. I gotta say, like, Monster was supposed to get a live-action adaptation by Guillermo del Toro. I wish it would happen, because this show definitely has this horror tinge to it, where, like, it's creepy, it's a little unnerving, it's always got like a gothic kind of heavy like music and imagery, but like it's such a straightforward manga adaptation, and like the color design is so early 2000s. Like when you compare this visually to like Zom 100 for instance, like this show looks like, it looks good. It looks like high budget for its time. This was Madhouse in like 2004 or whatever, but it's just like what could be done with the same resources now would probably just look so much better. And I don't think it needs an anime remake. I think it would, like, just by nature of what realistic lighting could do, what Guillermo del Toro could do with lighting, like, it could just emphasize the horror so much more in this story. And I think that's kind of what's missing. It's like the anime just can't quite give it this image is close, and the reason this image works so well is that, like, we already saw the other two doctors dead, and then it's like the daughter is walking up through the mansion, and so we know we're about to see this guy dead. So even though it's like a cut from across the room and there's not like any blood or any like, there's no direct indication that he's dead other than how creepy the shot looks and that our expectation was that he'd be dead. So it works really well. It's good gothic horror. But that's all we got for Monster.
Oh my god, it's Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah.
So this starts off with
Jujutsu Kaisen 2.
Oh sure, the Gojo's past arc.
Yeah.
So I was informed the first 5 episodes of this season are going to be this, and then there's going to be 2 like recap episodes and a movie. And
I see.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, this opens off with Geto kicking this guy's ass with a weird cursed spirit that keeps saying, "Kiss me, kiss me, kiss me."
He's basically just tormenting this guy who's like, "Oh, I'll stop working this area. I'll
just
move
go
to the
farm
countryside."
rice.
And the guy's like, "You couldn't fucking farm rice."
Curse users make terrible rice farmers. But yeah, so then he's like, but Gojo has to fight my other friend, whatever. And then Gojo immediately kicks the person's ass, and that encounter's pretty much over. They're protecting a girl named Tengen, I think. We're seeing a boat race throughout this episode.
So I mentioned earlier that I started following Andrew Cunningham on Twitter, and he had said of this episode, you know, people keep telling me that Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 is really good, and, like, I guess it's kind of fun, but ultimately I just don't really care about these characters yet, so it feels kind of empty. And I was definitely feeling some of that watching this, especially about the villains, because the weird thing about Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 is it looks fucking amazing. Every shot individually looks amazing. The way that the scenes flow is really satisfying. There's lots of cool music, cool looking characters, cool like environments, and everything is paced really dramatically in the visual sense. But oftentimes what they're talking about, I couldn't really care less. Do you remember what they're talking about in this scene?
Boats. Oh, it's
it's
Megumi's dad. Megumi's dad is talking about how he's gonna kill Tengen or whatever. Or it's confusing.
It's such a... What was so weird to me about this scene is, like, there's a lot of care and love put into showing this boat race that they're at and making it really fun to watch the boat race. Is nothing to do with what they're talking about. The boat race is totally fucking incidental. It's just a scene that they happen to be in. What they're talking about is very generic shonen shit and, like, the vaguest hints at some characterization for the guys having the conversation, but I really just was like, wow, this is boring. Like, as soon as the initial, like, oh, cool boats, like, wore off, and I started having to pay attention to the conversation, like, the opening scene was just, like, cool. You know, torturing a guy, saying some funny stuff, weird visuals, cool shots, yeah, whatever, cool, fun. Then this scene was just like, I don't care at all.
It's the guy talking about
it goes on for a
exhausting
while.
Gojo, apparently.
Yeah, they're like throwing small fry at Gojo to wear him down. Sure, whatever.
This is Tengen,
then
the girl
this
they're
is,
protecting.
This show, the sense of humor is very like, hey, now we're doing a joke. Sometimes I don't really know if I understand the joke.
I don't get this joke.
They twist her up, like they just keep like turning her around. I don't know. It's just like
shake it up, baby. Twist and shout.
Sometimes I wonder if like a manga artist might be too good. Like,
ooh,
like this Jujutsu Kaisen, every single thing looks cool, or is conceptually cool, or is conceptually funny, but like the connecting threads are very opaque, oblique. What's the word I'm looking for?
I think.
They've like, this seems funny. Like, just looking at it. Yeah, what is funny about who the fuck? We don't even know who this bitch is. They just like meet her and start twisting her up.
Well, she's the person that's gonna inherit the immortal body or whatever.
Yeah, she's like really cocky about that she's gonna survive inheriting this immortal body, and then they all kind of make fun of her for being like, "Oh, that's how you talk," and she's like, "Oh, I talk normal at school," and like, it's just like a weird, really weird chemistry between these characters that feels very forced into trying to be funny for the sake of with Jujutsu Kaisen. It's funny. This scene, though, I thought was really particularly strange.
Oh, where he knocks the guy's ramen over on the phone?
So, like, this is another scene where, like, the bad guy is just kind of in a place having a conversation that seems really banal and not that interesting, setting up stuff.
It's about killing Gojo or whatever.
Yeah, sure. Just show me them trying to kill Gojo. I don't need all the logic behind it. But he's like eating in this restaurant, and again, the whole staging in the scene is like really dramatic. Is this where he's eating
okonomiyaki?
Yes, he actually no, he's eating the takoyaki.
Takoyaki. I'm
octopus
sorry.
Balls. But yeah, like the scene, he at one point gets up, I guess to get something from like I don't know, a soy sauce or something. I don't remember. He gets up and starts walking across the restaurant while he's on the phone, and some guy bumps into him and knocks his ramen over and spills it everywhere. And bad dude just kind of keeps walking, and the guy's like, hey, but like he just doesn't pay attention at all. And then like on his way back across the restaurant, they make a point to show him like stepping in the ramen, but he's not like doing it with deliberation. It's just like he just walked back through the ramen uncaringly.
You know, as one does.
So like I guess the point of this scene is to show us like this guy just doesn't give a fuck. You know, stuff happens. He's not really paying attention. It's all beneath him. He doesn't really care. But like the way the scene is presented, it's so dramatically staged. And, like, it even ends with, like, he puts the chopsticks in the takoyaki, like, one of the chopsticks kind of falls dramatically. It makes it seem like they're trying to do a horror thing. Like, they're trying to make it creepy or, like, show us that he's such a bad dude. But it just comes off as, like, goofy and a little awkward. Like, he's just in a normal place. He bumps a guy. The guy doesn't really react. He walks through ramen. And then he creepily leaves his chopsticks in a takoyaki while he's
pretty cool.
On the phone.
You know, he just doesn't care about his food.
He just doesn't care that much. He just doesn't kind of give a fuck. I don't know. Like, it again, the way the scenes play out feels good. But, like, the content of what's happening. This is where the show gets really JoJo to me. People keep comparing it to Hunter x Hunter.
No.
I guess the powers were like
the powers
designs,
are closer to Hunter x Hunter.
But to me, this show feels very JoJo in that it's like the characters are all goofballs. They're all just designed to look cool, and like fights just happen. This scene, I swear to God, it's like what's the dude's name who, not Gojo but the other guy? Geto like rounds the corner into this hallway full of windows like a Dark Souls boss, and there's just like a guy who's got these like I don't know what they're called, seals, like Buddhist seals or whatever, that are glowing this really cool animation. It's like a translucent blue like flame thing with like an inky outline. Looks really sick. But it's like Geto rounds the corner, this guy is there, it shows him, and immediately this character, who as far as I know has never shown up before,
no, he's just a guy,
just a dude, immediately we get into his like extensive internal monologue of like all these thoughts he's having about how he thinks he's going to predict Geto's moves because he's just like a kid and he's really inexperienced, and like his first couple moves, you know, based on those he's going to do this, and like he just goes on and on and on, and like we don't really get this for other characters. Like, no. Even the main characters, we don't usually get in their heads, so it feels so weird and random that we just get so much info in this guy's mind all of a sudden. All for it to just immediately get upstaged. Like, Geto just does a really cool summon. The animation is crazy on this. Just like whoosh, this huge snake thing comes out of him and is like about to eat the guy.
Well, he's a user of cursed spirits, so he can just like summon those things.
Yeah. And then the guy like teleports outside and kicks his way back in through a window, but then he gets in and what? It's a dog. Also, everything's golden?
His life is flashing before his eyes.
What's going on? He remembers his entire life story all of a sudden about how he had this dog and these expectations his parents had for him, and like literally going back to all these memories, and realizes, oh, my life is flashing before my eyes. And then it cuts to Geto just like beating the ever-loving fuck out of him. Again, the animation is insane. It is very satisfying to watch, like, the actual attacks, the actual animation. But what the fuck? Who was this guy? He, like, shows up. He's just in this hallway. Like, Geto just literally enters a hallway and there's just a guy there ready to fight him. The guy has...
He works for the Star Religious Group.
He has this long-ass internal monologue before the fight, a long-ass internal monologue as he's getting his ass kicked, and then he's just out. That's it. That was the guy. That was that dude. Even JoJo, I think, would have tried a little harder to like establish the character. Not a very cool or memorable design.
No. Just kind of an old dude in a jumpsuit.
Dude. That was a weird one.
Then Gojo goes to save the girl that's going to fuse with Tengen or whatever, and all of her class goes crazy over him because he's hot.
Yeah.
The teacher gives him his phone number, her phone number.
I think my issue with the characters in this show, and why I think I agree with Andrew Cunningham struggling to connect with them, is that like the main thing about them is that they are cool. Like, I feel like in a lot of shonen manga, you'll have a character who looks cool, but isn't really contextually that cool at the start. Eventually, they become a badass. So, like Naruto, he looks cool, he has some cool powers, but he's the dweeb. He's the town punching bag. You know, everybody fucking shits on Naruto until he becomes really cool, and you have like reasons to think, oh yeah, this guy is cool. And like other characters, usually like there's some kind of build up before you can really think they're cool. Even like in Bleach, like, you know, Ichigo looks really cool, but in universe everybody makes fun of him for having strawberry colored hair. So like in this show, it's like the characters look cool and act cool and everyone thinks they're cool. So like their personality is they're cool. And that's fine.
I like them. They're cool.
But it leaves me with a sense of, like, none of this has anything to do with me. Like, all this shit that's going on in the show, like, I don't project onto the characters because they don't have enough personality for me to know if they're anything like me. I don't, like, necessarily want to be them because even though they're, or, like, hang out with them, because even though they're really cool on the surface of it, I don't really know what they're like. I don't feel like I know these people. I feel like they're all doing something.
Ellen also mentioned that Yuji, the regular main character, sucks.
Oh, from
Pink
the
hair.
actual show? Yeah. Yeah, I never cared about him that much from what I had seen of that show. But I did feel like I, at the very least, understood his motivations better because, like, his whole thing was just like his granddad told him to be a good person. So he was trying to be a good person. What is Gojo trying to do? Like,
be cool.
Be cool? What is Goto trying to do? Like, I guess that the guy's Geto. Gojo and Geto, right? Is it Geto?
Geto and Gojo, yeah.
Okay, living in the ghetto. Yeah, I don't know. I don't dislike anything in this show. Like, nothing's necessarily wrong with it. It is fun to watch. But there was a moment in this episode where after we've already introduced, like, several characters who've come and gone.
We had seen the maid girl earlier in the episode. She was she was there when they were meeting with the girl who's going to fuse with Tengen.
All I know is this scene opens with a dude with a bag on his head, like a big muscular guy with a bag on his head.
Yeah, Rokurota, the human giant from Jigokuraku.
Yes, exactly. A dude with a bag on his head shows up, and then a maid with a broom shows up to fight him. Neither of them do I have...
the guy with the bag is a clone. Ooh.
Yeah, he's like a shadow clone jutsu or something.
Yeah, there's like 5 or 6 of them.
Everything that happens in the scene is nuts. But what the fuck does it mean? what is literally going on here? Like, we just keep introducing more characters that, again, conceptually are cool. Like, it feels like Guilty Gear at this point, where, like, in Guilty Gear, every character is just some kind of mashup of a bunch of weird tropes, and you're like, okay, well, that character looks awesome. What the fuck is their deal? And their dialogue doesn't make any sense. The story doesn't make any sense. But at least in Guilty Gear, you play the game. The fights here are really fucking sick, though. Like, I could watch these fight. Like, this particular fight, the animation is crazy. No emotional stakes.
Nope.
None. Don't know who either of these fucking characters are. I don't even know who's the bad guy, who's the good guy.
Well, the maid's the good guy because we've seen her before.
I think I figured that out by the end of the fight.
We don't even see all of this fight, really. Eventually, like, they just all start attacking Gojo, and Gojo kicks this guy's ass.
That's true. It kind of just goes into...
He uses his infinity power to, like, create a void and suck the guys towards each other, and they hit each other. Things can't touch him because he's using infinity too. And then when he finds the Bagman's real body, he tries to use his ultimate infinity finisher and fails. So he just punches him really hard.
I wanted to be surprised that Gojo was, like, so ridiculously overpowered that there are no stakes in this fight, but we already knew that would be the case because the bad guy straight up said, I'm going to be sending Small Fry after him to wear him down. So, you know, I guess that's what's happening here. It's hard to know how much he's really being worn down. And here he is just, like, supernova fucking
He's trying to
everything.
use red, but he fails.
I think that's the last screen cap.
Yeah,
okay.
Kamikatsu.
So, yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen, I don't know. I like looking at it.
It's really pretty.
If only all of that could be used on, like, a tighter script with some characters I really cared about. I don't know. It feels all over the place to me. It just feels like an artist who draws cool shit, just, like, having ideas endlessly and not really knowing much about how to string them into a story.
Yeah, it's alright. It looks fun. I'm enjoying it. I am not enjoying this. I had given the show a lot of slack.
It's the end of Kamikatsu. Oh, man.
We've had 4 episodes of this stupid fucking Gaia bullshit.
This arc sucked. You know, Kamikatsu's a show that was never, like, amazing, but it had its moments. It was kind of cute at the start. I really enjoyed parts of the lewd activities arc, but then, like, it's just been dragging its feet, and, like, Gaia sucks as a character. Her backstory wasn't that interesting. Her scheme is confusing in the first place. And, so, there's a light novel anime adaptation called Is This a Zombie? Kore wa Zombie desu ka? And in that series, like, the main character's, like, an undead male magical girl who fights with this other magical girl who's like a chainsaw magical girl, and they fight zombies. But there's also, like, a vampire ninja, and, like, at the end of the first season, it gets to a point where there's, like, a clan of vampire ninjas playing violins on flying whales.
That sounds
like,
cool.
Above Tokyo Tower, and, like, it gets so insane that it becomes at the point is just like, how ridiculous of a sentence am I about to say if I try to describe what's happening here? I think this light novel feels like it was going for something similar of, like, and then a giant crazy monster appears, and then they're doing a mobile concert, and everybody's powering up the gods to use super attacks. And
then Atara gives all of her followers to Mitama, because Mitama's captured and needs the strength.
And, like, on paper, it sounds like, wow, this is fucking crazy. Like, all this insane stuff is happening. But, you know, Kore wa Zombie desu ka wasn't a beautiful-looking show.
Neither is this.
But it never tried to do things it could not do. This show is constantly trying to do things that it shouldn't be trying.
There's some really silly CGI animation in this episode.
I mean, look at this monster. What the fuck is this thing? And meanwhile, I love the little Mitama head stage. I think, like,
it's
this
cute.
Compositionally, this is a great image. But, like, the actuality of it is just a hideous fucking monstrosity. And that's how I feel about most of this episode. It's just chaos. It's just a bunch of shit, like, a bunch of final episode-y things happening. The music's not that good. I was really hoping the concert performance was better.
Rish turns Dakini on so hard that she releases a beam of love on the Hydra heart heads.
This was one of the only moments I thought was kind of funny, is just that she just starts like masturbating her in order to make her go better. Sure, why not? This is so hideous. Look at this pose.
Yeah.
I chose this just because, like, the anatomy, like, what is going on here?
We learned that Gaia drugged Yukito in some way. I don't know how. Yukito talks a bunch of shit. Mitama frees him after talking a bunch of shit to Mitama, saying, "I'll believe in you if you free me." And then, of course, he doesn't believe in her after she frees him, because what would the show be?
Yeah.
I don't like this show very much.
It really ends like shit. Like, again, like, I thought the first 2 episodes of the Gaia arc were, like, the most confusing, weird setup. The previous episode was, like, half an episode of the same kind of, like, way too wacky of shit that the show can't get away with. And then it suddenly got really cool looking and really weird when it explained Gaia's backstory. But, like, the rest of the fight is just more of the wacky bullshit. Like, it doesn't get any deeper into examining the characters, like, where it was starting to go. That we hit the emotional climax in the last episode. There's nowhere really to go from here. It's just a bunch of action, a bunch of sound and fury signifying nothing that looks like shit. Atar retires from being a god in order to make everybody support Mitama.
So she
in the final
starts
battle.
worshipping ice cream also. That's
Amazing. I mean, they put her in a cute outfit. The idea of this scene is kind of cute. Some of my favorite voice actors are in this show, so, like, there is an element I can always enjoy of just, like, listening to the great performances. I do think everybody sounded like they had a blast in the recording studio, and I think they brought their A game, and, like, a big part of this show working at all is on the sound level, even though, like, the music sounds like shit, but it's fun music. But yeah, I don't know. This scene just felt kind of flat, and it went on for too long. Also, why is the best drawn image in the whole episode?
When Atar resigns as god, Dakini says that Atar is gonna service a bunch of people.
She's gonna be at everyone's service, and they're like, "Oh, service? That means we're gonna have her lick our bananas." Okay, unnecessary. They win. Whatever. Here's everybody. Who the fuck is this guy, by the way?
He's
just a big dude. It's just like a big burly man who's there, I guess, for like certain audiences who'd be into him. But yeah, no, there's just... Here's everybody. You know, they did it. They saved the day.
Gaia's on their team now.
So, yeah, like, they have Gaia at their mercy. The 2 kids who were, like, betrayed by her.
Go to kill her.
The boy is going to stab her, but the girl stops him and is like, "Don't do it." And so I guess I don't know if they're going to forgive her, whatever. They just decide, whatever, we're not going to kill her. So she's around. Yay. Another character to just be around. There's just like a stupid scene where main guy is like talking to the little boy like, "Oh, you like the little girl, don't you? Because you listened to what she had to say." I don't care. None of this arc sucked. This arc was not good. I don't care about Gaia. I hate that she was like, they tried to, I don't know, they don't even try to redeem her. They just spare her.
Yeah, and then she's licking Mitama like a dog.
It's unfortunate. I mean, this is the last episode of Kamikatsu, so we gotta give our final thoughts. There was a time I thought I might give this show like a strong 6 to a light 7. Now it's more like a strong 5 to a light 6, just because there was more...
Like 4 out of 10.
There was more boring stuff than there was good stuff in this show. The good stuff that was there was really fucking weird and interesting, and like, I always like when anime goes psychosexual, but this ain't it.
Too psycho, not enough sexual.
Yeah. Alright. Classic. Back to classics. Back to good anime. Back to one of my favorites that we're watching this season. Back up. It's time to continue. Mobile Suit Gundam.
Char's Counterattack.
Char's Counterattack is a movie!
No, it's because he's counterattacking.
This is his first ever counterattack, I guess. Yeah, so, well, in the last episode... In Side 7, The Colony, the Zaku came with Char, and they fucked everything up, and they killed everybody. They killed, like, literally everybody.
Half the people or something.
Well, like, there's, like, a few people who Amuro and his friends got to shelter, but, like, they're currently boarding White Base, and the Zeon soldiers have, like, followed them. They're, like, killing them actively as they're boarding the ship. The fucking crew of the ship is getting wiped out. My favorite scene is where they blow a hole in it, and then these big, like, pink bubbles come, and they, like, float up to the
seal the hole.
And they break and seal it. Really cute technology.
It's like they got Willy Wonka working on their defense systems.
Something I love about this show is there are so many shots that are built to frame, like, as many characters and as many different depths of field in there as possible.
Like, there's Wakaba from Utena.
It's always just trying to give you, like, tons of information, and a lot of it's never explained. Like, what the fuck is this thing they're all riding on? How does this thing work? How does this operate? It's some kind of special vehicle built for being in a zero-G environment. Gundam is, like, literally being used to carry other equipment onto the ship.
There are other Gundam pieces, I believe.
Well, he was carrying a gun tank and a gun cannon, which are, like, the older machines that the Federation uses that suck, that I'm always like...
You're going to see a lot of them get destroyed.
They have no reason to exist at this point in the war. Because there's a great piece of dialogue. Again, this show tries to communicate as much as possible all the time. So, like, just the way characters say information can be important. And there's a part where, Char is reporting to his higher-ups, like... We lost 2 Zaku, and the guy's like, you lost 2 Zaku? And he's like, yeah, to 1 mobile suit. And the guy's like, investigate everything about that.
Yeah.
Because the Zaku is supposed to be the strongest fucking robot out there. There's no way they lost 2 Zaku to a fucking gun tank, you know? The Zaku were just eating through those up until this point. So
Char shows up in his red Zaku.
Yes.
It's just painted red because it goes faster. There's nothing better about it.
It's just he is faster, and he made it red, which, as we all know, red psychologically looks like it is moving faster. You're more likely to get a ticket if you have a red car. You also, I think, get insurance premiums with certain companies. But yeah, like, red's the fast color. So as they're boarding the ship, the fucking captain, the main pilot, gets, like, killed. He's like mortally wounded. I don't think he actually dies in this episode.
Yeah, no, because he's like in a bed for the rest of the episode.
But he's trying to, like, advise all the younger people on the staff of, like, what the fuck they're gonna do as they're taking off. So I have to mention, because I know the story of this show, like, these characters we see here, and these characters we see here, obviously Frau Bo's in both shots, are, like, most of the main characters of this show that are going to actually, like, still be around by the end. It's pretty much just the ragtag band of civilians who happen to find themselves on White Base. With the exception of this girl, Say Lamass, who is kind of important for reasons that are about to be revealed. But yeah, here's another shot that just look at how many layers this is. It's like you've got the Gundam out there in the loading bay, Amuro, who's in the Gundam, talking to them to a TV that's up here in the cockpit.
It's kind of like, I don't know that you've seen this meme, but the Gundam kind of looks like that meme of where it's like something standing in the doorway going, Mom, I threw up.
I don't know that meme, but that sounds adorable.
Hang on, I'll find it.
But I also love that this girl is named Mirai. So basically when they're just in the room with the commander who's, like, wounded, and he's like, who the fuck's gonna fly this thing? And she's like, I'm licensed to fly battleships. And they're like, cool, you're in charge now. I think she's probably, like, 18, like Bright Noah. But, it's just like a little Star Wars droid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does look like that. But, yeah, it's Mirai and Bright, the fact that they are looking off screen at the other person, who I think is the commander, like, injured in the bed in this scene, like, it just keeps you engaged on both sides of the shot. Like, even though you're looking at all this information, you're still thinking about all the information you saw in the previous shot, because the characters are looking at the previous shot still. Clever. clever storyboarding all throughout this show. And the characters just look great. They're highly varied considering how few lines they have to like use to draw them. The lines are always placed just differently enough that they have really different personalities. I can't remember. Oh yeah, so what's going on in this scene is basically like they find out that the guy in the Gundam is a 15-year-old kid, and
someone goes, well, there's been 15-year-old soldiers before.
So, like, Bright Noah's really against it. He's like, this is a kid, he's not a soldier, he doesn't know what he's doing, we should not have this happening. And the guy who's dying is like, look, we're fucked, dude. Like, if you can find a pilot who could fly the fucking Gundam, you could take the child out of it. But there have been 15-year-olds who fought in wars before. He might be our best option. If he's willing to do it, let him fucking do it, is basically this guy's mentality.
And oh boy, is he willing to do it.
He is, and I do think that's going to be tested as the show goes. But for the most part, Amuro sees it as like, well, I have no choice. Like, I have to do this. Nobody else can. Yeah, I definitely do think it's funny to me how in conversations about Evangelion, so much focus is put on Shinji, like, not wanting to pilot the robot. But to me, it feels like the exact point of that is to be like, well, what if Amuro, specifically Amuro, didn't feel compelled to fight by the fact that he literally has to? Like, in this case, it's like, okay, we're all gonna die if I don't fly the robot. And Shinji's just kind of like, I might be okay with that, because you all kind of suck. And nobody's really making me think that humanity's worth saving. You know, in the case of Amuro, he's a little bit less socially distant, I guess. Even though he is just seen as kind of like a robotics nerd. Like, I don't know, at the very least he cares about his own life enough to fight for all this. And I think he cares about Frau Bo as well. So here we have Sailor Mass stumbles upon Char. He's like crashed a mobile suit or something into... I'm not entirely clear exactly what happened to him here. I don't remember how he ended up like crashed on the colony.
Well, he had like done all the grenades, right? Or is that later?
That's later.
I don't know.
Yeah, so
he was
like
just a big old dumb idiot.
Sayla finds him and points a gun at him. She should have fucking shot him dead right then and there. Saved everybody a lot of time. But
wait, does she not like her brother?
Well, she probably does, but like I'm just saying, you know, it's Char. Like if she had fucking been killed here, history would all be different from this point forward.
The counterattack never would have happened.
That exactly. I don't know if history would have been better or worse, but it certainly would have been different. In any case, she has Char at gunpoint. He takes off his mask. They both seem to think one another looks familiar.
And then he, like, kicks the gun.
Yeah, he kicks the gun and just, like, flies away. But
it's actually only the first of the gun kickings we're going to see this week. The other one is in Speed Racer, and both of them seem very unrealistic.
Yes. Well, Speed Racer, he also jumps, like, 12 fucking feet when he does his. But I can't remember what's the name he calls her?
Salamander.
No, Sayla Mass is like the name that everybody else calls her, but he calls her like Arteria or something like that. Some kind of like really fancy name, because I don't remember if they say like anything about their relationship, but like it's pretty fucking obvious they're brother and sister. They got the same hair. They both wear red.
Artesia Som Dekun.
Artesia, yeah. So I don't know if this is even explained in Mobile Suit Gundam at all, that Char Aznable is not his real name. His real name is Casval. Maybe she calls him that in this, but the actual explanation of how he got the name Char Aznable is in Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin. I do think we will watch Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin, but only after a couple other of... because it's a 2010s show, so Steins Gate will finish, and then I think I wanted to do Sangatsu no Lion after that, and then we'll do Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin just real quick before we do the next show. after that. But mostly so we can get the rest of that Char backstory and keep our Gundam consistent. Because I also intend for us to watch Zeta Gundam after we're done with My Son Ikkoku. So that we can really get the whole fucking Gundam story. I'm going for it. I love Gundam. It's cool.
I really like Witch from Mercury.
Witch from Mercury's fucking awesome. And I don't know if I like it more than OG Gundam, but the visuals are fucking crazy. It's definitely more like consistently like, wow, this is blowing my mind, entertaining. Whereas original Gundam just has so much information that it constantly has me like doubling back, like, oh my god, like they really establish a lot like all the time. Yeah, there's a really cool scene where like Char escapes from this ship by throwing grenades at the walls and like,
as you do,
because it's 0G, so he's just kind of floating forward and like creating holes in front of him.
I don't think that would work very well.
I very distinctly remember seeing this as a kid and just think it was the coolest shit ever. Like,
how is this not happening? Cool.
Like, if this is possible at all, why is this not happening all the time in movies? Like, just fucking throwing grenades at the walls, because he does it so casually. Char's the most experienced soldier. It's so satisfying with this show that like, every character acts so differently, and it's so deliberate the way that like they move and talk that it says something about the character. If like the casualness of him throwing grenades, it means something. Like, yeah, that's Char. Like it's not just that he's cool. He is actually that experienced. He's done this a lot. He has spent a lot of his life throwing grenades and shit. He's also just a cold, calculating motherfucker. And this scene is really great where Amuro takes the Gundam out and like
tries to start shooting at these fellas.
He's been given a laser rifle. We don't know how strong this fucking thing actually is yet, but he's trying to shoot at them. And like, of course, the other guys are a little freaked out, like, oh, he's shooting at us. And Char's just like, hey,
just
don't
stand
move.
Still or float still.
It's really hard to hit small objects, and that guy doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing. So like, just float around. And like, there's something so satisfying about like the fact that Amuro is in the ultimate killing machine. Like, Char doesn't even understand how powerful this thing is yet, but he's about to. The ultimate killing machine that exists in the universe, and he is so inexperienced that in this one moment where like his ability to aim really counts, he's fucking powerless to stop a guy who is in a spacesuit just floating on the lack of gravity, can't do anything, and is like, hey, look, if you move, you'll be easier to hit. You might as well just keep floating. Like, Char is... It's not that he thinks there's no chance he's gonna get hit, but, like, he's just always like, look, I'm taking the best course of action, so I'm just gonna assume that everything's about to go well for me, And that's kind of the way he lives, and what makes him such a fun, charismatic character. Also, just look at this spacesuit. I mean, come the fuck on. Styling as shit. I would go on stage in that. But yeah, eventually he gets his way into his Zaku. He's flying in. He's 3 times faster than everybody. He's super cocky. The Federation people are like, we're fucked.
But the Gundam's like, fast too.
Amuro's like, I got a fast thing, and also the laser cannon, when he finally gets a shot on one of the Zaku,
shoots right through the thing.
Instant death. Instantly gone. And Char is like, what the fuck? That has to be a warship class laser cannon. So like, basically because the Gundam is made of Gundanium, like, it is capable, like, assumably that would just tear a Zaku apart if it fired that thing. Like, literally the force of firing it would be more than the Zaku could handle. The Gundam is just built different. And, like, this whole fight is just to emphasize that fact. That, like, Amuro's not doing shit. We know he can't do shit. He couldn't even hit them when they were not in robots. But, like, he's more confident he can hit robots. And he does. And Char's
robots
like,
are big.
If that thing hits me, I'm fucking dead. So, like, regardless of how, like, inexperienced Amuro is, the fact that the Gundam's just like raw ability is so high, and like when Char first hears them talking about the rifle, he's like, doesn't matter how strong it is if it doesn't hit us. But then when he sees it hit a guy, he's like, well, okay, well, fuck this, actually. And somebody in the Discord pointed out it's really nice that Char is like, even though he is overwhelmingly badass, he still loses this fight.
Yeah.
Like, the Gundam
the bad guy can't always win. Even Yang Wenli had some victories over Reinhardt.
That's true.
Wilhelm.
No more needs to be said about that. Anyways, the way this episode ends is really fun because Amuro comes in. He's looking kind of proud of himself. You know, Frau Bo's congratulating him.
Bright Noe just comes in and basically does the Aqua speech in the last episode of Oshinoko, where it's like, you fucking suck, bro.
Yeah,
you could improve.
You could definitely do better. Well, it's interesting, too, because you see this shift in his eyes, where, like, at first he seems relieved, but then when he sees Amuro, he, like, tenses up, and it's just like, you know, you really relied way too much on the Gundam's systems. And Amuro's like, yeah, well, fuck you, buddy. And he's like, yeah, well, fuck you, buddy. And, like, I thought this was really... It's really great because Amuro equates Bright Noah with his... Like, my own father never even hit me. Something he'll say in, like, the next couple episodes. But, like, Bright Noah's only 19 years old. And Amuro's dad said to Bright, like... You know, I'm trying to prevent children like you from having to fight in this war, and I would be horrified if my 15-year-old son had to, you know, do this. So now Bright's in a situation where that exact 15-year-old son is under his command, and he probably is just seeing himself 4 years ago. Because Bright Noah is, like, the hard military soldier who, like, when Amuro's dad was saying all that stuff to him, he's just like, whatever, dude, like, I don't know, I chose to do this, like... He is the most upstanding, like, normal commander guy in the series. So, like, when he sees Amuro, it's like, on the one hand, this is our hope, but on the other hand, he's not ready. So, like, I'm going to have to be the one to train him. I'm going to have to put all the military instincts that were just put into me into him. And it's really more like an older brother. That, you know, Amuro being an only child, never really had that kind of relationship with somebody who, like, was actually trying to mentor him from, like, closer in age. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, Amuro gives a lot of pushback. He's really not okay with someone judging his actions, especially when he just saved their life. But it's like, that kind of arrogance is also what gets people killed in this show.
Amuro's a jerk. Everyone's a jerk.
If you can't listen to your higher-ups, you will probably get killed. And Bright definitely sees in him, like, well, this kid might have some potential, but he needs the discipline. And, like, well, you know, I gotta be like that. So, it's an interesting dynamic. Did Bright do anything wrong? That's up for you to debate.
Hey, wow, it's Steins Gate. Are you ready for this show to make a little more sense, but still not really make any sense?
It's the Steins Gate. This episode makes perfect sense to me. In a way, like, the first episode was definitely a little bit mindfucky and, like, trying to set the tone. I feel like with episode 2, they're a little bit more direct with, like, the scenes are not trippy. Like, it's not, like, hard to understand literally what's happening in this episode.
No.
It's more like conceptually what they're talking about is a little bit over the top. But, like, it settles in a little more into the world and the characters and just, like, what their everyday interactions are like. And we meet a lot of characters in this episode. But we don't really learn that much about any of them. It's a little bit of an overload. Definitely... visual novel adaptation syndrome, where it's like, we have to introduce all these characters so you can pick which one you're gonna try to fuck.
I will take the femboy shrine maiden, please.
Yes, we'll get there. So this episode starts, Kurisu's alive. Okabe is, like, literally coming up to her, like, shaking her, touching her, and she's just like, what the fuck is going on?
She just slaps the fuck out of him, right?
Yeah, I think so. And then, so she has a seminar, and it's her giving the speech on time travel instead of the guy who was supposed to be giving it in the original world line we were in. And Kurisu's giving the speech, and she basically thinks time travel is not possible. And Okabe is like, but what about this and what about that? And she fucking lays into him, and she's really making fun of the fact that he calls himself Hoouin Kyoma. So she keeps calling him Hoouin-san, like, after every sentence. Just, like, basically making a lolcow out of this guy. And this scene, it's a very subtle piece of characterization, because in her introduction, she says a line from The Familiar of Zero. I believe that's what she's referencing, because he says that's Louise Sun's favorite famous line, and that's the main character from that series. So, like, basically she says a lot of memes that you would only really know if you're big on 2 Channel. So the fact that she gets into this, she starts up this presentation. She's like, I haven't really done a presentation like this. I don't really know how it's going to be, forgive me. But as soon as she gets pushback from an internet troll, she's like, I know exactly what this is going to be. This is now a discussion forum, and I'm just going to put this guy on blast and meme on him super hard. So, like, she's an internet troll. And she's doing it in real life, and it's like a Destiny debate, basically. Like, she's just, like, making a fool out of this dude in order to make all the points she's trying to make and impress all these people. And it works, and Okabe is blown the fuck out and just super depressed over it.
Then we meet Best Girl.
Yeah, so
This is a strange way to handle a trans woman.
Steins Gate has some problematic representation. And I'm going to say this show came out in 2011. Anime has come a long way with trans representation. And it's not that there was never anything good at all. But it's always been troubled or challenging because Japanese culture has a bunch of different... It has a lot of different ideas about what is trans and like... So historically, they have the concept of gay, what they call okama, is usually a cross-dressing man. But they are seen as gay men who just, like, do, cross-dressing on, like, the side. How many of okama historically have been trans and how many have been just gay but chose to dress as a woman to show their being gay? It's really hard to fucking know. Like, it's just culturally different the way that anybody was thinking about this or acting on it. In, like, the 60s and 70s, there was a culture called gay boy, which is fundamentally just trans women. There's a movie called Funeral Parade of Roses that's kind of like the Otaku no Video of gay boy culture from that period. And everything said by everybody in the movie is just shit I've heard from trans women. So I was like, okay, this is pretty objectively trans women culture. They just called themselves gay boys about it. But, like, I've never seen a gay boy anime character. I don't think that
it's also apparently
survived.
A loose interpretation of Oedipus Rex.
Yeah, it's a weird movie. It's really interesting, though. Very artsy and full of, like, real trans people. Real gay boys, if you will. But, so...
Wait, you're telling me the trans people are real?
So they have, like, a concept of...
Yeah. Have you been trans this whole time?
They have a concept of, like, otoko noko over there, or, like, literally girl boy. There's just a whole bunch of different conceptions of what is essentially a trans person that have appeared throughout Japanese culture and through anime. And Japan is also a complicated culture in that it's a culture where, like, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. Anything that's weird, they try to unweird it. But at the same time, and there's a really interesting video on a channel called Moon Channel that was talking about why there are so many trans characters in Japanese video games when there's very few gay characters. And it's because, like, whereas being gay is seen as, like, going against a social norm, if you are a successful enough transition that people can't, people just see you as a girl or see you as a boy, they're just going to treat you that way because, like, well, why would they don't know, they don't care, they're not looking into that, like, it's about how well you fill a role in society. And I think a lot of trans identity, like, I mean, a lot of it is fostered in that place of like, oh, I like feel like I belong in this social role, so I should represent that in the way I carry myself, you know. I don't think that's necessary to trans identity, but it definitely has a lot to do with the way people engage with it. Big time fucking trans rant here that I've been on. Bird is like watching a totally different trailer or something.
I'm
like, not
listening
even,
to Ramiel scream.
I don't even know if he still knows what I'm talking about. But, you know, this character...
Hot.
What we will eventually learn is, like, they were raised as a girl. The character will say, like, I'm a boy to people.
Well, and Ocarina says
but also, like, when we get into the backstory later, it gets really complicated. I don't want to get too into, like, whether or not I think this character should be considered trans or not until later. I think yes. The character's trans. For all intents and purposes, the story is a trans narrative. It's just told in, again, terms that are, like, from the perspective of an anime otaku in 2011 who's probably never heard any discourse on being trans other than, like, hey, it's part of anime culture, so it goes into the show that's about anime culture, you know? And, like, the impression of this character is, you know, Okabe says, like, she's more feminine than any woman. She's perfect. She's beautiful. But she's a boy. And he keeps saying, but she's a boy.
I think she says dude. I think he says dude.
Daga otoko da. Just literally means, like, but it's a man.
I just meant the subtitles. But
yeah, like, so my take on it would be, well, obviously you fuck anyways, right? Like, she's a perfect woman. You're gonna fuck. Like, she's not a man. There's just... the existence of the penis does not a man make. This show ultimately...
yeah, girl dick.
This show doesn't understand girl dick. That's the most I'm gonna say about, like, trying to spoil what happens later as subtly as possible. Like, this show's opinion is that in order to make her a girl, they would have had to... there's some real fucking weird time fuckery for how there's a world line where she's a girl, but, like, from birth. But, like, in the character's own opinion, like, that's what it takes to be a woman. And from my perspective, it's just like, this character is a woman. Like, there's no, and like, nothing's really different about the character in that other universe. They're just the same person without a dick so that Okabe can have sex with them, in that world line. But he should have just put it in. He should have just loaded it in the ass. In the ass. Alright, enough about this trans stuff.
Oh, right, he has corn.
That's a woman there.
No, but isn't it the science man that has corn?
Yeah. So this is a new girl who shows up to work for Mr. Brown, she said, because she loves brown tubes.
Doesn't she see the corn and go like, oh, so it's all, like, bumpy
She said, so this is what it was like originally. It's all bumpy. And is really interested in the corn. So I've been kind of debating with myself, like, because I've seen this whole show, so there's certain stuff that I didn't get the first time that is now incredibly obvious to me, and, like, the hints are there, but at the same time, it would be a spoiler to just say, but it's like, if you're really thinking about it, you could probably figure out some like, late game plot twists just from, like, the dialogue in this scene, and then the rest of the episode. But yeah, she's cute. I really like her voice actress, Yukari Tamura, I think is her name.
Suzuhamane.
Yeah, don't look up anything or else you're gonna spoil yourself immediately. You should have already by this point in the page spoiled yourself badly. Anyway, we also meet this girl who has a...
She wants this computer.
She wants this computer. She's really attached to her phone. She basically is taking random photos as she walks around, and she gets one of Okabe, and he's like, you need to delete that. Like, you're sus as fuck. And she's like, absolutely not. Also,
bring me this computer.
She said she's taking evidence of what she has done. So she's always taking pictures as evidence that she is, like, alive, basically. She seems just like a weird schizo, and her and Okabe have like a back and forth where he's kind of convincing himself like she must work for the organization because she's so fucking weird. But she's trying, like, she asks if he knows anybody who would know about this computer, and he's like, Daru might know, and she's like, give me his number, and he's like, I'm not doxing my homie, but, like, I'll give you my number. So he does, but, like, there's one part where he tries to take her phone to enter the number, and she's, like, super defensive of it. So, yeah, she's like, obsessed with her cell phone.
Cat girls, cat girls, cat girls.
Hey, he goes to the maid cafe. This is where Mayushi works. Look, there she is with the blonde wig, and she's fucking adorable. And she works with Ferris Nyan Nyan. I'm pretty sure the girl who voices her is like an actual Akiba idol or something like that. But the character in the show, we'll learn a lot more about her. But she's truly the princess of Akihabara. And this scene, she's just kind of being adorable and being a maid and talking to Okabe. Not really much is established about her in this scene, other than that she is, in fact, Ferris Nyan Nyan and does the Sekai ga Yabai. It's translated here as the world's in danger, but like Sekai ga Yabai, I think, could just as easily just mean like the world is bad or like the world is fucked, you know, like. It's cute. It's a good omelet.
Good omelet. Oh, and the gel banana is combined with the regular banana. Ooh.
They put a banana, they took one off of the thing and put it in the microwave, trying to make a gel banana, but the microwave ends up being empty, and the gel banana is attached back to the thing, like it moved through time or something. And then, like, right after this happens, Kurisu just comes walking into the lab. I think it's explained very simply that, like, Mayuri just kind of found her and brought her there in the next episode. But it is like, why is she here at the same time?
Whoa.
But yeah, this episode mostly, I think, is just, like, establishing all the characters that are going to be relevant. And, like, sort of making it clear exactly what type of time travel they're doing, because in the online discussions about John Titor, so like I forgot a major plot development that happens here that's also a big hint into some plot
all
twists.
the books from John Titor are gone and John Titor just appeared.
Yeah, in this, so basically they explain this concept of world lines, that if you go back in time, you will not change the future, you just create a new future. And so you know, when Okabe saved Kurisu, he created a new world that he is now in. And in this world, for some reason, John Titor never showed up in the 2000s as an internet hoax. He has showed up now as an internet hoax in the 2010s. And why is that different? It's going to take a really long time before we learn that, but there is a very good reason. And the hints are here in this episode.
There's gel banana. That's the hint.
That's not one of the hints.
No.
Anyways, I think that's it for this episode of Steins Gate.
Oh, here we go. So don't be funny. Don't say anything funny.
I'm just saying, y'all. Look, this is Speed Racer. This image comes on the screen like 12 times at the start of this episode because this is Speed's dial, his speed dial. It's
his steering wheel. It's
on his steering wheel. These are all the buttons that he has that have some kind of thing they can do.
It's the Mach 5's gadgets.
And so the start of this episode, it keeps showing the steering wheel and then showing, like, and this letter does this, and, like, makes saw blades come out of the front, or, like, makes an infrared light or whatever. But I'm just saying, there's something about this steering wheel that I couldn't help noticing, that I just thought was funny and worth screen capping. I don't really know if I can say what makes it so funny.
Oh, because it's like funny. The alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It is just the alphabet in order if you think about it. I never got that far. I only made it 3 letters in.
Oh, it spells bag.
So I really had to emphasize, this show happens fast.
Yeah.
It's called Speed Racer for a reason. It's dense. There's a lot of things going on all the time. The animation, you know, it's short and choppy, but at the same time, there's constantly new shots. Like, it's not like long takes where there's like very limited animation. It'll be like 3 frames of something really crazy happening, and then 3 more frames of something else really crazy happening. And I talked earlier about how, like, with Gundam Witch from Mercury, everything is very literal. Like, you see every line, everything looks realistic all the time. It's very consistent. But what I think is sort of the magic of anime is that it doesn't need to do that. It can be as abstract as it needs to be to make the point. And like Utena or Eva does that in really artsy ways where like every shot still looks really like nice. Speed Racer follows a formula that I would consider similar to panty and stocking with garter belt, which is like, okay, in this shot, everything's going to look hyper detailed and realistic because it'll look cool in this shot. But in this other shot, in order to accomplish the animation we need to do,
we're going to show Speed beating a guy up, but not actually show him throwing any punches. We're just going to see his legs.
Yeah, or like we'll see their shadows on the ground fighting, or like... and the background is constantly changing dramatically. So you'll have shots where it's like we introduce a race and you see like a bunch of cars from overhead and like some green on the sides. And then when it cuts to like a shot from horizontal, you see that like the field is super detailed. It's like a cornfield, and you're like, oh, all that green was a cornfield. And then in future shots, it might not show it in that much detail again, but you still kind of instinctively know,
oh,
okay,
that's the
corn,
cornfield.
So like here's a shot where like Speed's going downhill and
He's driving down the canyon from the last episode.
There's like a zoomy shot where it's like, all blurry in the background. Like it looks fast, but there's not a lot of detail. But then cut to like he's driving on 2 wheels across a fallen tree trunk across a gorge, and like this shot looks amazing. In between, like this is in between other shots that don't look anything like this. So yeah.
How else are you supposed to cross a gorge?
This looks like something out of James
Trixie shows
Bond.
up, and guess what? She can fly planes too, not just helicopters.
Yes, this is Trixie in a biplane, just kind of helping him out with the match.
I don't know if it's a biplane. I'm pretty sure it's just a regular old straight plane.
This was a perfect example of like a shot where it was like just green, and then it cuts to like he's very clearly in a field, and like great animation of the saw blade cutting through all this grass. But yeah. It's really funny because he's being followed by a guy called...
Skullduggery.
Yeah, Skullduggery, who he just calls Duggery. And Duggery, like, doesn't want to go through this grass at all until, like, Speed starts cutting a path through it. And then he's just like, oh, I'm just going to follow him. And, like, just the whole time there's this push and pull in the race where, like, it's Speed and Skullduggery really trying to compete for first, but they're just getting fucked with the entire time by evil dudes who are trying to ruin the race. So, like, Speed has to use all these gadgets and do all this stuff, but, like, there's this undercurrent of one guy's taking advantage of it to try to win, and then there's the bad guys who are just, like, outright in a fight. There's so much combat in this show. It is way more like fighting than racing. Like race fighting, just it's violence all the time.
Something I had forgotten about this show is how like Speed Racer almost always wins the races in these, but he does it almost every single time after like taking a 5-minute interlude to get in a fist fight outside of his car. And man, the Mach 5 has got to be really fast.
So in I don't remember exactly how we got here.
So Skullduggery's trying to take a shortcut around a volcano, and he falls into a volcano.
Yeah.
And Speed helps him.
You're watching a racing show, and suddenly the main character is in a volcano saving his rival from falling into lava. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening? It's... The whole show is very, like, Looney Tune, like, over-the-top visuals, like, crazy violence, just bonkers stuff happening. But it all just has a lot more edge to it because there's, like, some sense of realism. Like, they're real people. They're in real, like, environments and scenarios. and like there's an actual backing plot that the characters care about, so the stakes are way higher. So it's like you're bouncing between just manic cartoon insanity and then these moments where it's like, oh, these characters are in real danger. That guy's gonna really fall in that volcano and die, and like he's not Wile E. Coyote. He's not gonna be fine after he falls into the volcano.
Although later in this episode, Speed literally like pushes a guy off a cliff and he's just like dizzy.
Yeah, they make sure to draw the little yellow birds around his head to indicate that he totally lived that 1,000-foot plummet off the cliffside. But like, yeah, it's a lot more harrowing, and like I mentioned in the last episode that Wacky Racers came like after this and used a lot of the same ideas, but that show is so much more cartoony and like every episode's exactly the same. And while I'm sure this show will get kind of repetitive with how much of it is just like manic violence, again, it's the moments that stand out are like when it gets dramatic or when it has like a plot or character beat that just you would not get out of something like Wacky Races. This being one of those. Like, I really wasn't expecting these two guys to bond in any kind of way, and like it's really just sort of a momentary thing where like he's always using Speed to get that advantage in that moment, like pretending like, oh yeah, you know, we're really in it together, brother. And then as soon as they're like done, he's like, yeah, all right, fuck you, I'm gonna win this race now. And Speed's like, god damn it, I should never helped you, should have let you die in that volcano. It's a fun dynamic. And
right, so a bad guy has Speed at gunpoint, and so Speed throws his helmet at the Mach 5's windshield so that he can't get the plans, and then Speed like jumps 15 feet in the air and 20 feet towards his attacker and kicks the gun out of his hand, which is another feat of Speed. How the fuck did you just do that? But yeah, ultimately he wins the race.
He's like Spinzaku from Code Geass.
Also at the end, Pops starts lecturing Speed about why he shouldn't be racing, and Speed literally just drives away. So that was pretty good.
I do like, as soon as he threw the helmet at the windshield, I was like, of course Pops knows it. Like, he must realize Pops
Yeah,
just
and
knows
Pops
it.
goes, I got it all up here.
Yeah. It was the right move to make. I love that when Speed wins the race, his reaction, in the English dub, he says something like, I won the money.
He does.
It's like he's very much in it for the money. But he doesn't win the money because it turns out that all that fighting and bullshit that happened in the race disqualified the race, which I think is probably pretty reasonable.
But Speed still won.
He did still win, even though they were specifically fucking with him. So that kind of sucks for him, but it makes sense. And yeah, it's really cute that the dad is like so impressed with him having made that idea about the plans that he forgets to be mad at first about him having raced, and then he goes off about that, and yeah, Speed's just like, well, I've got the fast car, so fuck you, and like dad has to follow in the old like junker truck that he still has for some reason.
It's like a Jeep.
I also wanted to mention that the kids, they snuck around in the back of the car. They don't really fuck anything up too horribly.
They hit a guy over the head with a wrench. Yeah,
they actually help out quite a bit because they help in the combat, and there's a part where the kid like pretends to he does a fake cop siren, and so all the bad guys are like, oh, the cops are coming, we gotta scramble, and then like that, you know, just while they're confused, they beat the fuck out of a bunch of them. So yeah, he actually did it, and there's a part at the end where the dad's like, I'm such a genius, and the kid's like, some of it must have rubbed off on me too, right, Pops? And he's like, I hope so. I really love Trixie's outfit, by the way. I would totally cosplay her. Trixie would totally cosplay Trixie. I don't know where the fuck I'm gonna find any of these clothes, but...
Oh, I also noticed, so like, Sparky's wearing an S on his shirt, and that makes sense. But Speed wears a G on his shirt, and Trixie wears an M on her shirt. What does that mean?
It's probably because their names are different in Japanese.
Oh, you're right.
But yeah, this was a fun episode. I'm sure we skipped over some details of what happened, because again, there was so fucking much. There's so much beating each other up and like falling off cliff sides and
this show was, or this episode was a lot more action heavy than story heavy.
I still
It's
had a
still
good
good.
time watching it.
Yeah, I liked it. It was fun. Oh, is this the last one?
It's Pokemon. No,
Is
we
it-
still got a couple more.
What do you mean? We got a couple more.
We
What
still
else?
have like a few more.
What else could we have?
It's well, for now we got Pokemon, which is
Oh.
cute. So Pokemon's been gone for a couple weeks.
And this was pretty much a recap episode.
The first like half of this episode, there's a lot of recapping, reused stuff, and also like they're just having a picnic. It is very banal. It's like
They
the
make
characters
sandwiches. Roy makes a sandwich with spaghetti on it.
They make some sandwiches. They eat some sandwiches, and then at some point, Liko is like, "Hey, what if I made sandwiches for Dot? I feel I just feel bad that my friend is up there on the ship, and I'm down here having fun. What if I
So
brought
they
her
set up
sandwiches?"
a picnic in the ship for the old man and for Dot and for Kawasu.
The Pokemon really like the ball. Ain't that cute?
It is cute.
So this is a great scene where this little bird just steals fucking
Kestrel,
Hogator's.
I think is its name in English.
It steals Hogator's sandwich, and they're like, "What the fuck? That bird just took my sandwich. We gotta fight him. We gotta get it back." So the bird starts like making this high pitched noise, and he's like, "I bet Hogator could be louder than that." So Hogator just starts screaming over
And they
it.
scare all of the Pokemon away.
And eventually he can't fucking take it anymore. So he's like, "Guys, stop fighting. You're just hungry, right? Let's share the sandwich." He pulls it in half. Hogator happily gives half to the bird. The bird's all nice. He's like, "Yeah, cool." He eats the half the sandwich.
And
They're
then
all
he eats
bonding.
the other half.
Yeah, he just immediately takes the other half and runs off and eats it. And Hogator's all just distraught. Like, "We'll get you another sandwich. Don't worry." But this is
Dot's literally eating like dog or poke food
So,
in this.
this is a great example of the opposite of what I complained about with Jujutsu Kaisen, where I said that show, all that there is about the characters is how cool they are. They just look cool all the time. Dot's a character who we've had so much introduction to of like, she's a YouTuber. We've seen her in a costume first, like talking about Pokemon. Then we learned that she's like a hikikomori. She's really insecure. She's got all kinds of stuff going on. But look how fucking cool she is. You see this shot and you're just like, I love this character forever because she's cooler than shit. And it just feels so earned. Because we also know that Dot doesn't usually look like, when she's got her hair down, it's all in front of her eyes. Like, she's hiding her power level of how actually cool she is. But yeah, great shot. Cool character. And then she goes to the kitchen and finds out that there's like a whole picnic there set up for her and her granddad. So she gets to have a nice little picnic. She takes a picture of herself in the costume.
And Liko thinks at first, "Oh my god, she got Gurumin in the ship?" And then she remembers, "Oh no, Dot's got a Gurumin costume, and it's just a really good costume."
Yeah, she still hasn't convinced herself that she is the YouTuber that she likes, but whatever. It's cute. They had a lunch,
They explain that this ship was Fire Lady's dad's old fishing boat or something.
Oh yeah, it's like the Bebop, a repurposed fishing boat.
A bunch of Magnetons show up and we see a bad guy with an Umbreon.
Yeah, towards the end it's like Roy is gonna go catch that bird, but that doesn't actually happen before the episode's over. But he keeps seeing the bird is like lonely. He's not flying
because it's not
with
with
his
all
pack.
the other friends.
Yeah. But yeah, in the previous episode, there had been a part where, just seemingly at random, a Magneton was jamming their, like, communications. We now learned that that was not random. It's on purpose. The bad guys are sending out Magnetons to jam their shit. A guy with an Umbreon's like,
cool.
"I'm gonna fuck them all up." And then I think the episode just kind of, like, ends, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right,
boy.
Mushoku Tensei.
I think this is the last one.
Look, B, it's us, as you said earlier.
Oh yeah, this pair of very low key lesbians definitely has the same vibe as we do, because one is like the big friendly strong one who looks cool, and the other one's just like kind of vaguely pissed off and cute and small. So, anyways, Mushoku Tensei. I had heard this episode was pretty good.
It's not.
It's not that good. I didn't really.
You ever seen
enjoy it
Sword Art
very much.
Online? You've seen this episode of Mushoku
This
Tensei.
episode, you literally could have told me that this was a new season of SAO, and I would have believed you. It is almost the same thing as episode 3 of Sword Art Online, except for instead of having a dramatic turn that fucks up the main character forever, it has
It's
a
fine. Everything's
pleasant
fine.
turn that unfucks up the main character forever. So I guess it's unique in that way, but like,
So, if you don't remember what happened at the end of the last season, Eris hooked up with Rudius and then ditched him to become stronger or something. Now we are dealing with Rudius going to the northern continent or whatever to rescue his mom.
yeah, not a lot of progress is made in the actual plot in this episode.
I like that the quote on screen right now is "You've sure been sighing a lot," because it's a great prediction of how I reacted to this episode.
Yeah. So, the end of season 2 was really strange because Rudius scores with Eris. He's all excited about it. She cuts her hair and leaves him a note that's basically like, "Hey,
I suck.
I'm never gonna see you again. Bye." And she's like going off to resolve her own shit, but she has it in her mind that she is gonna see him again. Like,
Somehow.
she's like in love with him, but whatever she wrote, he took
it as
as
her like leaving him
yeah,
forever.
I'm breaking up with you, fuck you, and like I'm gone. And so he's been like completely depressed, thinking that like he lost the woman that he loved, that he finally got to score with as soon as he got to score, and now he's just like completely emotionally devastated. Watching a guy deal with chump syndrome isn't the most fun like
No, it sucks.
show experience to me. It was hard to feel like on his side, because it's like my stance is like, well, you need to get over it, and like that is what this episode is him getting over it.
They
But,
get to a
like,
new
I don't
town.
know. I didn't need to experience this.
They get to a new town. He talks to the guild about disbanding his party. He does that successfully, and then he's going to take on a really reckless mission. And then the people he was traveling with come up and go, "Hey, what if you did it with us? What if you joined our party?"
Oh, Ellen Horizon said, "What a show to end on" in the chat. Yeah, I wanted to save this for last because it's one of the shows that people care about, so they'll watch the rest of the podcast. If I put it at the end, and they don't just give up when we shit on it right at the start. Because,
This is the filter episode.
well, no, and I don't dislike Mushoku Tensei overall, but I have to say,
This episode was
we
not
made the
good.
mistake of watching this right after Jujutsu Kaisen. The downgrade of visual quality was stark.
Yeah.
Stark. Jujutsu Kaisen looks crazy. Go into this show where it's just like long static shots of characters sitting, staring straight.
It's
not
really
a lot
hard.
of color depth. Like,
This show is so slow.
this episode was unbelievably slow.
But so anyway, this is the party. There's this tall guy with long hair, green-haired man.
Yeah, basically, like, Rudius shows up to the Adventurers Guild and is like, "Give me a quest," and he's gonna do it all by himself, and they're like, "That's so reckless, you should be doing it with the party," and, like, everyone in the guild's kind of talking shit about him. They're like, "This guy fucking doesn't know what he's doing, must be some kind of noob," and so this woman just sees him, and she's like, "You should really be in a party,
You should be
join
in
up with
our
us."
party.
And the whole time, Blonde Girl is just
Shitting
upset.
on him.
She doesn't even really say much. She's just clearly in love with the tall woman and just sad that like another guy is getting any attention from her.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only read that I could really get on it, because they don't really outright say anything. At some point, he realizes, and here's the
wow.
other thing. Anime is not very good at communicating age difference, because unless a character's really old, then the only thing they're going to use is height. So I guess we were meant to assume from the fact that that girl is shorter that maybe she's younger, but basically his analysis is she is this girl's trainer. She is the Ghislaine to her, whatever the fuck red hair girl is.
Eris.
I know I said it. Yeah, Eris.
So real quick, tall girl with dreadlocks is the co-leader of this group. She fights on the front line. Short girl with blonde hair is obviously an archer. tall guy behind girl with dreadlocks. He also fights on the front line. Long-haired blonde guy is long-range attack magic, and this guy with short hair is their healer.
So, when I saw that some people liked this episode, and then I saw this scene where they all like party up and go fight.
I was like, someone's mom is about to die.
Well, I could hear, like, I could read in my mind like what someone would say about this episode, because
Oh my god, it's just like an MMO.
it's just like Dungeons and Dragons, because they have the proper party layout, and then, like, you've got the support mages, and they're doing the long ass incantations, and like it feels more fantasy RPG party, like, video gamey, and people love that. People love Record of Lodoss War for the fact that it was all like D&D based. People love Goblin Slayer for the fact that it plays like an RPG. Like, obviously, even basic isekais, that like anything that has like a certain amount of mechanics where it's like, oh, I know these mechanics because this is like a game that I play. It can be very, very appealing to people who play those games. To me, it always makes it just feel extra generic, because I've seen fucking dozens of things that use these mechanics. So it's like, oh great, it's an RPG. Oh great, they have a healer, a tank, and a whatever. They're fighting Pooh Bear when in the Pooh
So here's
Bear.
what's going on.
A bear made of poo.
Okay. Don't need too much singing right now. What they're doing is long-range attack man just keeps casting the same fire spell over and over again at these bears, and one of the members of the party goes, "Oh, cool, we won't even have to engage them in close combat." Rudius makes them get covered in mud, and so that's why they look like they're covered in poo. And then the bears, spoiler alert, get really close, and they have to fight them in close physical combat.
This scene is really annoying because it seems like the party are all really trying their hardest, and Rudius is just kind of standing there despondent, like, I don't care about
like,
life.
he literally dissociates at one point, and the dreadlocks girl has to save him.
And then, like, yeah, after they've, like, put their asses out there trying to save him, he's like, actually, guys, I got this. And then just, like, annihilates everything. And it's like, oh, turns out he was a super badass. None of them, like, accost him, like, why didn't you, like...
Why didn't you summon the eagles in the first place, Gandalf?
Yeah, exactly. They just kill all these bears. There's a scene of them just kind of, like...
pelting, or skinning the bears.
They're skinning them, but, like, the expression, like, what does this expression say?
It says, "I'm gonna fuck this bear."
What is spoken by this expression? I don't know. It doesn't mean anything to me.
Okay, so then they all come back to town, and he's like, "Hey, we just did our first big job, so we're gonna buy everybody a drink."
Yeah, and then they, like, what's funny, because, like, they come in and everybody's like, oh, these guys think they're better than us. They need to get out of here. And then, yeah, the one guy announces, like, we're buying a round of drinks. And they're like, hey, you guys rule. And then she's like, yeah, and Rudius. And they're all like, Rudius. Like, he didn't buy the drink. Like, they just kind of said, like, yeah, celebrate this guy. And they're like, done. We got it.
And that's it, right? Is that all that happens in this?
Basically, he realizes, maybe even if he might lose everything, whatever, he's gonna try to enjoy time. He's gonna
Why
stop being sad.
doesn't he just focus on finding his fucking mother?
I don't know. This episode felt like such a
Oh,
waste
actually,
of time.
also at some point they drop some random piece of knowledge of, like, yeah, all the countries in the north are really poor except for the 3 magical kingdoms. And then they kind of just went away from that. Anyway, this show is not very good.
Which animes are you the most and least excited about that we've got ourselves a foot in the door here?
Utena, Witch from Mercury, Speed Racer.
Utena's the one I'm, like, most excited to talk about.
Zom 100. I don't know that I'll always have a lot to say about that show, but it's always fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm gonna be excited to see where that goes. Yeah, Witch from Mercury's crazy fucking good. Original Gundam is, like, probably my favorite this season so far, just because of how much happens in it and, like, how much I feel like I learn about the story in every episode. Utena episode 2 is just, like, kind of one of the weaker episodes, so I feel like that'll pick up a lot. I know Steins Gate picks up a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say Steins Gate and Monster are probably the 2 I'm least excited for.
Yeah,
But
they're both
they just
really
don't-
hard to talk about right
Yeah.
now at this point in the show because like we just know so little information, and
But I'm sure that'll change. I'm sure it'll get good.
I enjoy watching My Son Ikkoku a lot.
Yeah, that show's just fun. Oh, we watched anime.
We did it, and you can watch more anime with us. Of course, our bonus episodes on Patreon and back.by if you want to hear your name in every episode. If you want us to be able to make this show more frequent, pay us more money.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing stopping us from doing this show full time is that we can't afford to. So, you know, if we made enough money doing this, not only would we be able to do it during a time of day when we're more awake, but we'd also be able to cover shows more frequently. You know, I want us to have 2 episodes a week. I want to have a manga podcast. I want us to be able to do, you know, at least 1 bonus episode every month. But originally I was hoping we could do 2. Maybe that would be possible if we had more time. I have no idea. But
Ooh.
Bird really wants to go to bed. So all right, everybody.
I actually have to use the bathroom.
That's it. Anime for right, I still have the edited version of the last episode still hasn't come out at the time of this recording. I will get that out before I edit this one, but I want to get them both out soon. Really didn't have any time this week. As for the compilation versions of seasons, the next one.
Oshinoko came out yesterday.
Yes, I did Oshinoko. I was requested by Anathema Vedesu to do Hell's Paradise next. Somebody requested Kamikatsu, and now that that's done, I can do that. But basically, those are just going to happen as fast as I can get them done until I've done all the shows that we've covered. So,
we watch anime.
Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Anime forever.
Anime forever. Oh, God.